Live from the Findlay Toyota studio, you're listening to ESPN Las Vegas.
All right, here we go. Cofield and Company here on a Monday. Willie Ramirez across the way. James is running the show. ESPN Las Vegas for the next 3 hours, breaking down everything that's going on around Las Vegas and the world of sports. Busy time coming out of a UFC event that was mostly great, and then a very disappointing ending, so we'll get to that. NBA Summer League, A's news in less than 5 minutes. Good guest spots as well. Willie, you had a busy weekend. I know you said today you were a little bit beat to start the day. Well, I saw you out, doing some live stuff at UFC 329. Good seat, as this UFC is really popular. And I saw both you and Adam were on the floor, and a lot of people were up on the hockey ring up top. That was pretty cool. And there was a lot around the event. There was a lot of pomp and circumstance, tons of celebrities. One of your favorites, Sophie Cunningham, showed up.
Yeah, it was a big week just in general, and leading up to an exciting weekend for Las Vegas. And as we've been discussing, right, as you mentioned, NBA Summer League, the Aces were home for back-to-back home games. And you think about the WNBA, you think about the persona that it carries and the fan base. Sophie Cunningham is standing there, and I'm double-taking because where I was sitting, front row, Red De La Cruz and the Ring Girls are sitting there. Everyone knows who Red is, right? The face of the Ring Girls, if you will, for UFC.
Actually, you know what's funny? I did not. I haven't watched that much UFC of late. I wound up watching a lot of highlights. I had no idea who she was, and then Anna kept pumping her.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Is she like the new top dog Ring Girl? Octagon Girl?
Was it Brittany?
Yeah.
Can't remember her. Yeah, she's
Well, it was Brittany Palmer. There was Ariane Celeste.
Brittany Palmer was the last, and then she's retired.
Yeah, I would say Ariane Celeste is the biggest one
of all time.
Yeah.
Okay, so Red De La Cruz is now it.
Really?
So I look up, and Sophie's standing there, and I'm yell, Sophie! She looks over. Sarah
Tell people what she was wearing, because that was the where you're like, what the hell? As a celebrity, what are you doing?
Yeah, well, she was wearing just a black tank top. It looked like a bodysuit probably underneath, and then some black sequin shorts. She was there as a guest.
Wait a second. Do you think this was a last-second setup?
Oh, is that 100%? Dana explained it at the post-fight press conference.
What'd he say?
She walked in. They've established a friendship. Yeah. So him and Sophie Cunningham have become friends. They're very close. She's in town, obviously, for a second meeting with the Aces in 8 days. Sunday was the game, so she said, I want to go to the UFC. So she comes over, she says, she looks at the ox, she goes, I want to walk that. He goes, then you're going to walk it. You want to walk it? You're going to walk it. So he tells whoever, either the manager for the Ring Girls or somebody, he says, Sophie. So she's standing over there waiting. By the way, biggest round of applause, and we'll cover this with one of our guests, MMA expert. Biggest round of applause for a walk-in that night, Patty Pimblett. That crowd loved him. So she's standing there. She's getting into it. There, he's walking in. They hand her the number one placard. Huh. She walks. Everybody went wild. Now, granted, I don't think all 19,000, 18,500 that were in the arena knows who Sophie Cunningham is, but the ones that did, it was very electric. It was very vibrant, and it was kind of cool to see. It was interesting to see, but how do we say her stance in certain genres or certain her political stance. It's been put out there. So obviously the lines with Dana. So the fans obviously they really ate it up. What did she do while she's walking around holding that sign, Steve? She stopped.
She did the point.
She did the point. That's the new thing. I mean, she's got to trademark that. She's got to logo that some way or another with the point. Anyway, it was cool to see. They ate it up. It added to a very energetic night that ended, as you said, with a dud.
Yeah, it was a cool event, and these things happen where someone gets injured, and it turned out to be a dud, and then for some fight fans, that wipes out the entire card. But we'll explain what happened on the card and a lot on Conor McGregor and the latest update on his injury and if he'll ever come back, as I saw a lot of that. He is done. He's never coming back. It's Willie. It's Cofield. It's ESPN Las Vegas. So MLB All-Star break is here.
Yeah.
And, well, I didn't see this coming. Everything fell apart for the A's. They got destroyed this weekend. They lost the series, I think, by a combined 24-2.
Yeah.
They haven't scored more than 2 runs in 7 games. They've got 6 runs in their last 6 games. And I'm not even mentioning the biggest problem is the pitching because they give up a 14 spot and a 9 spot. The ERA is now down to second worst in all of baseball next to the Rockies. This is a disaster, and they fired the pitching coach. Doesn't matter. Is the next person, the bullpen coach, going to make big changes? Probably not, but sometimes you just have to send a message and change voices.
Yeah, it's different, I think, right? When you compare sports as far as, well, the quarterback, the defensive coordinator was fired. Well, we're going to change an entire system. What are you changing? Realistically, what are you changing? Unless you make personnel changes at the deadline and go get a big name pitcher. What are you changing? They're going to come out there and they're pitch the same style. I don't think the pitchers are changing styles. I don't think they're taking anything out of their arsenal. So you mentioned the season-long ERA. Just during this 1-13 slide since June 27th, 7.02 ERA, and in 14 games, 29 home runs. So it's a fraction over, a decimal point over 2 per game. Now, here's the interesting thing. You think, well, is their offense doing them any favors? We talked about this earlier in the season, and you and I both agreed and said, hey, the offense is there. They have the power. They have the young hitting. They just need to work on the pitching, and that's falling apart. They went from hitting .249 and scoring 4.5 runs per game in their first 50 with 54 home runs. Okay. Since then, in 46 games, the batting average has dropped, yes, to .237, but they're scoring 4.3 runs. That's .2 less per game. They've hit 63 home runs in the 46 games since hitting 54 in the first 50. Yeah. You can't complain about the offense.
They can't keep up.
You can't keep up.
I also think they're feeling the pressure. Every time you go out there, you got to score 7 or 8 runs to win a game. I mean, they are 41-55. As you mentioned, 13 of 14, 9 in a row. You called this before the weekend that the risk was there of losing 9 in a row. They are 3-17. So if you go back, they were 38-38, and now they are 41-55. And, I mean, what's the best hope now? Listen, this was going to be another developmental year, so you don't have to panic. You're not going to go and buy aggressively now. It's all changed because of this losing streak. They have more hitters coming. Leonard Vries, their AA prospect who they got in the Mason Miller deal, who's arguably the top prospect in baseball. Now at AAA, I think he's at 276, like 10 homers, 35 ribs, and 31 steals. He had a couple steals in the MLB Futures game. So I don't know if he's going to be in Sacramento or in Bigs until September, but I think he's going to be here soon. And then Tommy Tanks is going to go up soon, Tommy White. So they got more hitting on the way. Hopefully they can get healthy. Hopefully this injury with Kurtz is not serious. It does sound like Jacob Wilson is pretty jacked up, that he's nursing a bad shoulder. So I don't know if they shut him down at some point and let some of the younger guys play. So they're still upside in the second half, but I can't see them now finishing with more than like 76 wins, and that would be an unbelievable second half.
Well, you mentioned it's not a that it's a developmental year, and that maybe they weren't but the way that the season somewhat started, going 26-24 to start those first 50 games, the trajectory could have changed if the pitching was different, and then it wouldn't be. So it's not as if that was the mindset coming in, like, well, let's build, let's grow, let's build this thing and develop and establish a young core into a powerhouse by the time we get to Las Vegas. The team had a little bit of promise, maybe a third of the way through the season, right? 162 games, so 50 games. It's the way that they plummeted is what's disappointing.
Yeah, Severino going down killed him. I think a lot of people looked at it and they're like, oh, no big deal. But on that staff, he's a top 3 guy. He eats innings, and now he's been down for like a month. Hopefully he's going to come back soon. He might actually be – is he going to get you anything?
Well, your bullpen's shot now.
I think there's actually probably more of a benefit of keeping him around, eating innings, and helping out the young starters. A little more. They get a little more depth at the top of the pitching rotation, move guys down, better matchups, and also take it easy on the bullpen. So, I mean, they could twirl him for something if they're going to do anything. I think I'll have to look at the first 5 picks in the draft. I think they went 2 hitters, 3 pitchers, and they went all college pitchers. When they took their pitchers at the top of the draft, they went all college pitchers. So we'll get you updated on how the draft went as well. It is the Lotus Summer of Fun, so every week in celebration of America 250, we're giving away these great domestic adventures. We've had some great trips so far. Another good one is we're giving away a Mississippi River trip. That's a river cruise. That'll go out at the end of the week. Load of summer fun each and every day and all through the summer is brought to you by Terrible's, Baylaw Injury Attorneys, and ESPN Las Vegas. And what you do to get qualified is you text in the keyword of the day, 702-364-1100. 702-364-1100. Keyword is boat, B-O-A-T, boat. Boat is the keyword for the Lotus Summer of Fun. Text it in, 702-364-1100.
You're listening to ESPN Las Vegas from the Finley Toyota studio.
All right, big weekend of fights to recap. We'll talk to RJ Clifford in about 20 minutes. RJ, of course, former fighter and works behind the scenes on the production team with UFC and is on lots of podcasts around the MMA world, including the Anik and Florian podcast. And we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the whole card, but we know people in the end judge a card and react the most strongly to a main event. Conor McGregor was back after 4+ years of being absent, had this grand entrance. It's Max Holloway watching the betting all day long as Holloway goes up and up and up and up and up and up and up. I saw a high on Holloway of minus 325. It might have got to minus 350 in some spots. I bet the under 2.5 rounds, and I bet a Holloway submission 9-1. So here's what happened. McGregor comes out, he tries a kick, and it appears that he injures himself, and then he keeps falling to the floor. He falls to the floor 2 or 3 times. Max is trying to punch at him. He is up kicking, so his legs are still moving, and McGregor's saying to the ref, like, hey, there's something wrong with him, And then
Holloway saying that.
Yeah, Max was saying that.
Yeah,
some claim that Conor was also kind of like telling the ref, hey, my legs I'm jacked up. I didn't see it. That's according to other fighters. I know on one of the podcasts I saw some fighters talking about that. But anyway, fight's over in 1 minute 9 seconds. The internet explodes. The arena, you were there. I wasn't. Totally quiet. I think everyone's looking around like completely stunned. And, the internet's exploded with the embarrassing and, this is a joke. They knew about it beforehand. This will work. Conor's never coming back. There's a lot to unpack here, but being there, how surreal was it could you tell that he was hurt early on?
I specifically said to the reporter sitting to my left, I was like, he keeps slipping. Why does he keep slipping? And I didn't know what it was. I was thinking that there was something maybe on the octagon, on the floor.
Yeah.
But I did say he's slipping. Didn't dawn on me that he may have injured himself. But he kept going down and he's looking up. So I watched him walk in. I watched him come into the octagon. I watched him come over and get into Holloway's space. We saw what happened the day before in the weigh-in where he rushed at him. He didn't just walk up to him. I don't know.
Takes
his glasses off, throws his. I'm not so convinced. I'm not sure I'm buying into that. Was something pre-existing? Here's what I've been explaining to a lot of my followers that I had on TikTok that came into my live that night is this. Max Holloway put it best, and he said, listen, we all come into fights injured or hurt, not injured. We're all hurting. This is what we do, right? Steve, when I wake up in the morning, I literally I have to squeeze my fingers. I have to go like this. Why? Because I've been typing for 39 years. I cracked my knuckles when I was a teenager. My hands are ravaged with arthritis. These guys are swinging on one another. They're sparring with one another. They're fighting. I think that their bodies are done, in a sense, by the time they get to the fight, and it's whoever is in the best shape. Conor, you mentioned it. It was 5 years and 1 day since his previous fight. So, did he have brittle knees? Probably. Did he have a pre-existing injury that was calling for him to tear his ACL, if that's what it was? I don't think so. Because I don't think anybody in their right mind is going to put themselves through that situation. Was he maybe warned? Well, maybe he tweaked something. Maybe he did this. But I just don't see it where we've seen big cards with big names, and you know this better than I do. You've been covering UFC. You used to cover it on the regular. The last minute, somebody pulls out a broken hand, a this, or that. I think if there was something to where it was torn or it was on the brink of, they would have called it. They would have postponed it or something, or changed it to where Pimblett was they weren't going to cancel that short to fight date, but they would have changed it. Yeah. I'm not buying into the whole conspiracy that Conor was hurt and this was a fix, this was set up. 2 reasons why I think Conor's got too big of an ego to do something like that. I'm not putting him past being shady or whatever the case, whatever the guy. But as far as this, no. Number 2, I don't think that Dana White is putting his brand on the line of it ever coming out, and that's it, because it would just die on the vine.
And I thought Conor looked legitimately devastated afterwards, highly disappointed. You saw video of him running out of the building after the
Hobbling
fight, trying to running's a good way to put it, right? Hobbling is the true way to put it. But legit injury, we don't know if it's an ACL, an MCL. I mean, there's been doctors just kind of looking at the way his body twisted and judging the injury as an MCL. I don't know if it's going to be a year process. I don't know if it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks. But I know that all that stuff on Saturday night when everyone's all, the adrenaline's high and people are all fired up and they're like, that's it, he's done, can't fight anymore. He's going to fight again. He's got more fights on his contract. He's got one more fight on his contract. I don't think it's going to be in boxing. I think him boxing would do well. I don't think he can box, so I don't even know what they would book. Him and Floyd, again, I'm not very interested. I don't think you can sell that. Yes, it's less taxing on the legs. But if you watch him in the warm-ups, he was kicking in the locker room. Yeah. I know people were watching him taking his shoes off, and he kind of hobbled. Let me tell you, when I take my shoes off and I might trip on something, I'm not a high-level athlete. But I try to be really careful because I do not want to go down in a heap for something stupid. And I think that's what that was. Listen, he injured his knee. He tried to kick. By the way, we'll talk to RJ Clifford in a couple of minutes. He was warming up kicks before the fight, and almost every fight in his history, he started out with kicks. So people are like, why would you try a kick? Because that's what he does.
Right.
That's what he does. I'll tell you this. Max Holloway's really nice. Probably too nice. He should have been a killer. Now, here's my personal stake in this. When McGregor was down on the ground, I wish there had been more animus between the two fighters, like almost every other fighter that McGregor has fought. And that's why McGregor was different in this fight. His hype for the fight, he had to fake it a little bit in talking trash. If Holloway, once he went to the ground, if Holloway had jumped on top of him, he could have beat the crap out of him, beat him, real via KO or TKO, or subbed him.
Okay.
Which, by the way, when the fight ended, I'm like, the sub was there! Take the submission! But Holloway was very nice.
He knew something was wrong. Why not? Yeah. If he really wanted to, he could have put him in a leg bar, right?
Can you imagine? That's part of the sport.
It is.
Hey, you're down.
It is. Hey,
guess what?
I'll never forget when.
Here's a heel hook. Sorry about your knee. I'm going to rip it some more.
When my son did Taekwondo under the USA Taekwondo umbrella, and we go to this up at Berkeley. It was the hardest tournament of all. Junior Olympics was one thing, but you had like 1,500 competitors there, so it was watered down. Berkeley, if you had 750, 700 were top notch. Our Jordan's master instructor used to say, do not show if you get injured, because especially against the Koreans, because this is their sport. It's territorial. And if you hear them, if you show signs of weakness or an injury and you hear the coach yelling in Korean, they're telling him, go after the injury. And I'll never forget, one time Jordan, it didn't break the finger, but jammed it like catching a ball. And there was a Korean master from Vegas that ran over in between rounds and said, Willie, he's telling him to kick your son's finger. In between rounds, that's what he's telling him. MMA, I mean, we're talking about, at the time, 8, 9-year-old kids. So you're talking about MMA, mixed martial artists. You go after the injury. You're in the octagon. That's what you do. So it was as you said, you could see the devastation on Conor's face. I just don't think it was a setup. I don't think that the fix was in. I'm not buying into it. I'm sorry. And I just, for the reasons that I said, mostly that I just don't think that Dana's going to buy into that. I just don't see it.
He's coming back. They will have a fight for him. I don't know if it'll be boxing. I hope it's not. There's too many good fights around 155 to 170. It'll be at 170. And they'll make another mega fight. And it's your choice if you want to buy it. I mean, listen, buyer beware. First of all, you're not really buying it anymore because, yes, Paramount does cost money. But that's one of the saving graces of this is that pay-per-view nonsense is gone. So you don't feel like you just got destroyed for $80 and you didn't get your main event. You got a good fight card. He's going to come back. Now, it's up to you if you're interested. I would say this. If you are a ticket buyer, that would create some pause if I'm going to pay $1,500, $2,000, $5,000 for a ticket. But you know what? A lot of times when people spend that much money, they have it. They have it to burn, so it doesn't kill them. But I understand the crowd being disappointed, and what I don't understand is a lot of the mainstream media people who come in and watch boxing and MMA and act like horses' asses and overreact, and this is the worst thing that's ever happened. As I said to people that night, and then on a video I did this weekend, I was like, that was the dumbest. Someone said that was the dumbest MMA fight game plan I've seen ever. It's like, Gina Carano got subbed 57 days ago. She ran at Ronda Rousey and got tackled. That was worse.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a main event this bad in forever. 57 days ago. So these things happen. They happen. Giveaway time. 364-1100, 364-1100. Aviators tickets playing El Paso, the Chihuahuas, at the ballpark on the 23rd. You can get your tickets at Ticketmaster.com. Caller 7 right now. Aviators tickets, a 4-pack. James is going to hook you up. Caller 7, 364-1100.
Now back to Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas.
All right, this portion of the program is time for TikTok Talk with Willie. Willie's got this growing TikTok community, and I know they had a bunch of questions over the weekend into today. So you want me to fire you some questions that you got on TikTok?
Yeah, it's kind of fun. Just off the live that I did at UFC. So we got the TikTok community Q&A. Let's go.
Woody in Brighton in the UK said, what do you think about Gianni Infantino wanting to add 16 more teams to the World Cup 2030 to get it to 64?
Yeah, so this has gone from, 32 in 1998, and now where it's at with 48. The argument, not argument, but the reasoning is that, hey, every nation deserves to have a chance. If they're doing that for that particular reason, it obviously makes sense to expand. But if they're doing it for marketing purposes to get money and it's going to water things down and not necessarily be a good thing, if it could take away from the competition, and I mean, we've seen some really good games this year. We've seen a lot of shootouts. We've seen some surprise exits early on. But if it's something where the nations that aren't being included deserve to be in it and they can provide quality, why not?
Yeah, I would say the only downside is longer tournament with more games, a little more of a risk of being injured and not having everyone super healthy for the Final Four and the final. Another question from England. Riley said, do you think USA will take rugby seriously leading up to the World Cup next year?
Yeah, I didn't know that they didn't take it serious. I think that the reason that we in America get that sort of rap is because it's not big here. I don't think it's because USA doesn't take it serious. Otherwise, we wouldn't be hosting things right down the road here at Allegiant Stadium. But the fact is it's just bigger elsewhere. As they call it, football across the pond is their biggest sport, whereas here it's growing, it's big, it's popular, it has its fan base. NFL will always be king here. I don't know if they don't take – it's not that they don't take rugby serious. It's just that I think it just needs more participation. Maybe they need it. I don't know. Are they going to start that at the youth leagues? That's where we see it grow, is grassroots participation. So I don't necessarily know if it's not taking it serious as much as it is popularity and involvement.
Well, one more on the World Cup, back to soccer. Billy Bo said, do you think the World Cup has been a success in the USA? What can future host learn to improve? I
think it's 100%. From everyone that you've talked to, we've known people that have attended it. We've known media members that have attended it, fans that have flown over for it. I've heard through the TikTok community people from England that have come over to watch it. I think it's 100% become a success, and I believe that USA is providing a lot more respect, and the host cities, I think Vegas, is doing one of two things. They're thankful that they decided not to, and there's a part of them that's going, damn, we should have, because of the money. But
American fans showed out
big time.
There were no travel complications, so the ticket prices have been, through the freaking roof. Why can't I say that? Future host.
The only thing
I can't really compare it to how other countries have done or where they fell short.
The only thing I thought of was how many times we've brought up since our friend Arash Markarzi to the different. First of all, the ticket prices, but also, which I don't know if you can control that, but concession stand money. Right, we're seeing outrageous prices, but is that something that you can't change and you have no control over?
It's every event, and FIFA's going to get what it can get. Yeah. Sonny chimed in, said, Patty Pimblett says he's now the face of the UFC. These are TikTok questions for Willie and Cofield and Company. Is he even close? You were in the building.
Let me tell you something. Conor McGregor was the draw. He was the headliner. Paddy Pimblett had the biggest roar coming into the arena. Whatever that song with his name, they were singing as he was coming in. It was loud. Conor McGregor got a roar. Paddy Pimblett brought the house down. And then when he won, place was going nuts. Is he the new face? I think that's determined by the fan base. It's just like, is A'ja Wilson the face or is Caitlin Clark the face? Is Caitlin Clark the moneymaker? Is A'ja Wilson? I think it's all in determination as to the fan base and who's bringing it in. Paddy Pimblett has a huge fan base. And if he continues to make that remark and then can go out and prove it and back it, I love the idea of maybe Paddy Pimblett facing Max Holloway next and the winner getting Gaethje for the championship. We could ask RJ Clifford about that. But I think he's well on his way, and Dana could take advantage of what he saw the other night in somewhat stealing the show before the McGregor debacle.
Up next, RJ Clifford on what happened at the end of the fight, what's in the future for Conor McGregor. I'll leave you some comments from Leslie, one of our most loyal video viewers. Right now we are live up on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. Check it out, Cofield and Company. We try to run live for a good 90 minutes to 2 hours every day.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas.
So Willie was at UFC 329. I was watching at home. I was tracking all the tweets and the reaction, and I thought, you know what? Let me sleep on it, taking all the reaction. I put out a video on Sunday, and I thought it was pretty level-headed, but that isn't the case a lot of times when there's a devastating injury in a main event, when there's a lot of anticipation for a big fight, and it turns out to be a complete dud that never gets started. RJ Clifford has been around MMA for a long time, fighter behind the scenes as a production guy, front-facing talent, and Saturday night was disappointing. It sucked. But before we get to all that, RJ, what's the latest on McGregor's injury? Because there's so many people on Saturday within that first hour who are like, he's done, he's never going to fight again. What's reality right now?
Well, he's announced that is a leg injury and he needs to go in for surgery. So we had a couple posts, one very lengthy one about it was 90% about his relationship with God, and that he's inspired and he's going to come back and he's destined to do more. And at the very end, he's like, I got surgery, rehab, and I will be back. So he's got one more fight left on his current contract with the UFC. He would like to fill that, and then hopefully I think he wants to become a free agent and go from there. I'm with you. Even though he does turn 38 tomorrow, I don't think he's done. I remember 5 years and 2 days ago when he broke his leg against Dustin Poirier, and people were saying, he's done, he's gone, he's never coming back. He came back. People said, no one wants to see him. He's not going to be a draw anymore. No one cares about Conor. He just shattered the gate record on Saturday night. So I think the will for him is there. The receipts will be there for him. Therefore, he will be back.
And there's two stories here with his age. I saw Dan Patrick, who was trying to talk some MMA today, saying that Conor McGregor is 37 in that sport. That's old. It actually isn't. Now, he's older with his legs because he's had so many injuries, but the funny thing around mixed martial arts right now has been an amazing time for fighters who are 35 plus.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird renaissance. I think that's more of exception as opposed to the rule. I think 35 is kind of right when you start getting old, especially in the lower weight classes, but that's at championship level. I don't think people are thinking Conor McGregor is going to come back and fight Islam Makhachev or win the belt. You can still be an effective, entertaining fighter at 37, 38, 39 years old. It's just there is, your body obviously does start to slow down a little bit at that point, and I think we've already saw a little bit of a slowdown from Conor, but even a 70% of Conor's prime is still a fun fighter to watch. I think people want to see.
RJ, I've gotten a lot of mixed reaction on social media, on TikTok. That was terrible yesterday at the Aces game. Man, must have been disappointed. I actually thought it was, since I started covering, which isn't that long, a couple of years now for the Associated Press, I thought it was one of the best events to sit there and watch every fight, have to write notes down about it up until the main event. I thought it was a great card.
It has the most first-round finishes in a UFC. It was tied for most finishes in the UFC. It was fireworks, man. But I think people are so often, I think the boxing kind of spill over into combat sports. Everything is judged by the main event. And in fairness, right, everyone was there for Conor, right? It was the Conor McGregor show. That's why everyone's there. And, as a guy that works 35 Saturdays a year, if I give up my Saturday to watch one guy and it doesn't go the way that I hoped it would, I would understandably be mad as well. But if you're of all the casuals, I can understand the anger. MMA fans, they walked away very happy that they watched Saturday night.
RJ Clifford's with us, MMA expert. He joins us each week to break down what's going on around the world in mixed martial arts. Let's get some reaction from you on some fighter reaction. I noticed that, I don't know if this was strategy or not, Dustin Poirier made himself very visible the last couple of days on podcast. Just looking at McGregor, he thought he looked kind of bloated, that his face looked bloated. I pointed that out to Adam Hill on Friday, and Adam just said, hey, he's at a heavier weight. There was something about his energy coming in where he just seemed so much different. He was more introspective. But in terms of the shape, the conditioning, did you think he looked like he was in good condition coming in?
He looked like he was 37 and up a weight class. I think that's a fair way to put it. Yeah. A little bloated in the face. I mean, he was Skeletor on the scale back in the days when he was making 145 and 155. I mean, even going up to lightweight, that was still a brutal cut for him. So I think just kind of the contrast of then versus now. And also, Dustin Poirier doesn't have a lot of nice things to say about Conor at any time. So, not that I would discount what a great fighter like Dustin Poirier would say, but I think that's part of the equation.
I think it's awesome strategy by Poirier to be saying this stuff. So when Conor, gets to look at it, then he's going to start ripping on Poirier, and then guess who's back, in the mix in terms of attention from people as he's trying to recover from his issues with alcoholism. I saw Dean Thomas on a podcast say he didn't think McGregor looked like he wanted to fight, and he thought he should have fought through the injury, at least tried to fight through the injury. Is that too much?
I think, we saw it happen that exact card. Corey Sandhagen was in a Suliev stretch against Mario Bautista in the very first round. He was able to finish the fight. Now, again, all injuries are different. Corey Sandhagen posted how it was like a hamstring tear. He'll have to, that's what he thinks it is. He'll have an MRI, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we've seen fighters blow out their legs and still continue to fight. Sean O'Malley did that against Andre Sukumtat and was able to finish the fight and need surgery right after. But again, that's what makes these cage fighters extraordinary and superhuman and not normal, is that they can do things like that. We don't know exactly what the injury is on the knee of Conor McGregor. And again, like you said, he's 37. Does he want to just destroy his leg even more in a fight where he doesn't think he could win? I don't disagree with Dean in that he's seen that happen before and fighters keep fighting, but maybe Dean can say that. I certainly will not tell a grown man that you should keep fighting despite being on one wheel.
I thought another great observation was people reacting to seeing a leg injury, and they're like, why would he start out the fight with a kick? And then you had retweeted something about his history. What does he usually do at the start of a fight?
Throws a kick, like a wild kick. Like against Dustin Poirier, he threw 2 spinning back kicks back-to-back. He threw a hook kick, I think, to Poirier the first time. He threw spinning back kicks against Diego Brandao. He threw spinning back kicks, I think it was Dennis Seaver. Like, he usually starts a fight with kind of elaborate kick. Now, not as elaborate as a jumping switch kick, but we saw in the locker room, the footage was released of him warming up doing that exact kick, and it landed fine. The problem is Max isn't a stationary target holding mitts like a cornerman. He stepped backward, and when he did, Conor's foot planted, and the momentum of his kicking leg kept going, and so his leg just kind of planted and kept the kick going instead of both of them landing at the same time. Hence, his knee turns into spaghetti.
Willie's here. It's Cofield, RJ Clifford breaking down UFC 329. Listen, we're not trying to dampen down the disappointment. It sucked. That's not the way you want to see a main event go. But I do highly advise people who don't watch UFC on a regular basis, MMA on a regular basis, but especially UFC. Their cards are deep. There are great fights up and down the card. They're great stories. Man, you know how jacked up I've been for like 2 years, yelling about Dana White, not spending money to go out and get elite wrestling prospects, amateur wrestling prospects. Gable Steveson, I thought, exceeded any expectation I had because I expected a guy to go in there, tackle his opponent, the Snack Panther, destroy him on the ground. And then I'm watching and I'm like, this is a 5'11", 241-pound game plan that John Jones would try to execute with side kicks, the freaking kick to the knee. I was like, that is vintage John Jones. And best of all, listen, he put himself in harm's way a couple of times. He doesn't mind getting punched in the face. That debut for the former, two-time NCAA wrestling champion and Olympic gold medalist, that was awesome.
He sent a message to every single opponent moving forward that I'm not just going to wrestle. Like, you have to prepare for everything. You have to prepare for the best wrestler in mixed martial arts, and you got to prepare for D's hands too, because he was throwing them. Now, there's certainly plenty of things to work out. He was very hittable. Like he got cracked a couple of times, but it's his 4th pro fight. He's got like 5 minutes of total fight time. Like, there's things. It's certainly things he's got to work on. But like Daniel Cormier put it perfectly on the broadcast. Wrestlers like myself, when they enter mixed martial arts, they're afraid of the fire. It's one thing to be able to do any sporting endeavor. To be able to do it whilst someone is trying to knock your teeth down your throat is a completely different thing. And he was willing to step into the pocket, step into the fire, and exchange and fight like a mixed martial artist and not a wrestler cosplaying as an MMA fighter. So just that step alone is huge. Once that is overcome, the technique will come after.
Remember years ago, and you could see it actually during the fights, but Tim Sylvia told us when Brock Lesnar, the former Division I wrestling champion, came to Militich, trained a little bit. He got mad when he got hit. Not like mad to fire back, like don't hit me. I don't like getting hit in the face, and that is a big thing to overcome. And let's for a second let's compare. Listen, Lesnar is a special human being in terms of his size. I think Stevenson can be as good a wrestler, and maybe I'm overreacting. I thought his hands that early in his career were excellent, and can we say it that if someone can actually execute athletically what John Jones did during his career, that John Jones is going to be a hell of a coach?
Yeah, I mean, and you saw it, right, with this, like you mentioned, the switch kicks and oblique kicks and, gauging his distance. His coach, Cody Gibson and John Jones, that's certainly a nice combination for him to have. And you bring the Brock Lesnar comp. I mean, it's about as comp as you can get, right? 2 NCAA wrestling champions. Obviously, Brock didn't win a gold medal, but little cup of coffee in the NFL, some WWE experience. Obviously, Brock had way more. But there were reports out of Brock Lesnar's camp that his training partners had to sign contracts, and he was not allowed to be hit in the face. Like, he was that deathly afraid of being in the fire. Like, that's certainly no way to get comfortable in that situation. It's amazing Brock Lesnar was able to win a heavyweight title and knock out Shane Carwin and knock out Randy Couture with those kind of stipulations on his training partners. Then you take someone like Gable Steveson, who's already comfortable there, better wrestler, similar caliber athlete, maybe a little smaller, but quicker. Yeah, there's a reason why he's the blue chip prospect in mixed martial arts right now.
Speaking with RJ Clifford, RJ, when you talk about depth on this card, when you talk about having a never give up attitude and indomitable spirit, you tweeted this out. Bobby Green has done such a good job from transitioning from stud athlete into savvy veteran, committed enough to the body, knowing McKinney's clock ends at 4:59. I mean, I'm sitting there going, this dude's face is bloodied. He's done. He's finished. He gets up, escapes with 20 seconds left, lands one shot, and finishes it as the time expires. Wow.
Terrence McKinney has gone, I'm looking at it right now, 8 straight fights that have ended in the first round, right? He is the ultimate killer be killed. He is the glass cannon. He is going to either end you early or be ended early. And King Green, now at 40 years old, real savvy veteran. He knows, like he was in serious trouble early on in that fight, like most Terrence McKinney opponents are. He was able to weather the storm, put a little investments in some body shots early, and then at the end, like that last body shot wasn't a lot. It was just McKinney had just already broken down. He knew he was approaching the end of the first round. I don't know if it's a mental thing for him, a cardio thing for him, a game planning thing for him. I don't know what it is, but I think Bobby Green knew, I just have to weather this early storm, bank a couple body shots, and I'll be able to put him away. And it was a buzzer beater at 4:59 of round one.
The arena was electric when Patty Pimblett entered. I say it was louder and more electric than when Conor walked in. Is he ready to take over as face of the UFC?
If you ask him, he is. I remember when he fought in London, he was like the third fight on the card. Like, he wasn't even anywhere near that. It was very early in his UFC career. I think it was maybe his second or third fight. That was the loudest I had ever heard in an arena. Wow. When he walked in like 2022, when he was like 2-0 in the UFC. I've never been in an arena that loud for a fighter's walk. So he's certainly ready for it. He's at the right age, right? All the other big stars other than Ilia Topuria are all much older than him. Patty Pimblett was only 31 years old. And to just completely nuke a dangerous fighter like Benoit Saint Denis as the co-main event to Conor McGregor, like, you can't buy that many eyeballs to see your performance. I mean, this is going to catapult him in a way that He'd already been going, and I will freely admit, I was very slow to come to the Paddy Pimblett bandwagon. I thought he was the beneficiary of some nice matchmaking, and he just, the UFC saw the marketability and kind of hyped him up as so. Shame on me. Whatever he earns fight-wise, it's going to be on merit. Yes, the hype is there and the marketability is there, but any matchup he gets moving forward will be on the wins, losses, skills, and merit.
I think the fight plan for Pimblett is obvious. Does Oliveira have a fight scheduled?
No.
I would get him in there with Oliveira. That's a winnable fight. That pushes him up a little bit more, and then maybe timeline-wise, that's when you set him up against Conor McGregor, and it's a passing of the torch. Either McGregor pulls off some great victory against the young guy, or Pimblett launches to another stratosphere. To me, that's the plan. And then, because we keep hearing about Pimblett being much bigger than the 155 class, you fight him at 170 in a super fight, that'd be awesome.
Conor weight. What's it matter? Does it really matter what weight Conor McGregor fights at? It's just hype, and he'd be so much bigger than him. And that would fit into kind of the UFC plan, right? Like when a star has the last fight on his contract, they don't want them leaving on a win. You want them losing to one of your guys you think is going to be a star. That's what the UFC tried to do when Nate Diaz left and had him fight Khamzat Chimaev. Chimaev came in 1 billion pounds overweight, so Nate gets to fight Tony Ferguson, leave on a win, and even more marketable. So, the young eat the old in mixed martial arts. If I kill you, I become you, Highlander style, and that would make perfect sense.
Yeah, Bruno Sammartino, and remember his rivalry? Back in the day in wrestling is Larry Zbyszko. Larry Zbyszko. Old school wrestling, Larry Zbyszko. Maybe Paddy Pimblett will take the chair to Conor McGregor's head. Don't do that! He's brittle. Don't do that. Okay, 2 questions, 2 minutes. Today is National French Fry Day. Do you have a fry of, I don't know, your favorite fry? What is it?
Well, chili cheese fries. I am just a sucker for a slab of chili. Lower intestine problems be damned. It's totally worth it. But I will say, people who hate on In-N-Out fries, you have the palate of a toddler. They are fresh cut fries. None of the chemicals, none of the crap put in there. You can literally see them take a potato, julienne it, dump it in a fryer, and put it on your plate. That's quality.
By the way, the schedule the rest of this quarter, especially the rest of this month, is pretty damn good. The next 2 cards, main event, are pretty intriguing with Duplessis and Usman, and then Ankalaev is back against Roundtree.
So Roundtree just announced he's injured. That sucks. That's no fun. But you still got Ankalaev. Like I said, Duplessis versus Usman, fantastic matchup. You got Duplessis after losing his middleweight title and his comeback fight against the former welterweight king and Kamaru Usman. Usman's trying to show he's still got it, coming off that win over Joaquin Buckley. He did have a 3-fight losing streak, but it's probably the best 3-fight losing streak you can possibly have in mixed martial arts. Losing to Leon Edwards with that head kick, losing a close decision, and then losing to Chimaev after that. So Usman's on a mission to prove he's still got it. Duplessis on a mission to prove that he's still here.
By the way, too bad that the fight went a little bit long and he did take a little bit of abuse. If you could turn around Bobby Knuckles on short notice, I thought a puffy Robert Whittaker looked really good in his fight. By the way, Rogan was really caught up on how puffy he looked. And then even after he wins the fight, kept with the same line of questioning. I wanted Whittaker to be like, Joe, I won.
Yeah, Joe will assess the male form deeply. And
right.
He's really into that. And I understand, hey, when you're octagon side and you're looking up at these guys like they're gladiators, it's kind of cool to me how Rogan, like that, he's never gotten jaded about the experience. Like he still watches fights. How many thousands of fights has he called, and he still looks at them as just like, these guys are superheroes. They are not real. I'm not the same species. This is insane. But yes, Whittaker looked awesome going up to 205. He showed that, he's going to be he was short for a middleweight. He's going to be tiny for a light heavyweight. Yeah. But he showed that he can get inside and make his game plan still work.
RJ, you the man. Thanks for coming on a Monday. We'll talk to you.
You got it, boys. Later.
He did have a point about weight. There's a way to get Whittaker to like 225 or 220 where it's more natural and he's more comfortable when he cuts weight.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
Here we go, 4 o'clock hour. You heard it, Reno, Vegas. You can react on the text line at 364-1100, 702-364-1100. Willie, Cofield. James is here. Let's get to it.
Battleborn Osborne Injury Lawyers presents The Big 4 at 4. Number 4.
It was a crazy weekend in Vegas. Lots of cool events highlighted by the NBA Summer League, Aces with 2 games, and UFC 329. My God, people are dialed up on fight day. I didn't put this in our rundown, but I noticed Dana White went on some show in the morning and said, you can't get a hotel room right now because of our event, something to this effect, in Vegas. And everyone immediately went to Expedia or something else. We're like, liar! There's rooms everywhere! Okay, there were rooms. They were more expensive, though. I can tell. I tweeted out, New York was $325. Park MGM right next to the venue was $350. Listen, rooms were more full. There was some availability, but people get so worked up. It was a big event or a big weekend for Vegas, which made the celeb toll, the final number of celebs and the level of celebs at the fight impressive. The Aces game on Sunday, you said there were a bunch of celebrities out there. Well, I'm trying to think who they put on the UFC screen. So Sophie Cunningham walked as a ring girl. I know Max Crosby was there. Saw Mel Gibson.
Chet Holmgren.
I didn't see him.
From the Thunder. Shakur Stevenson.
Vince Vaughn. Next to Vince Vaughn was Tucker Carlson, who at one moment was seen dancing, which people didn't love it. People didn't love his dancing. Tyson was there. It was another level in terms of celebrities. Who else did you see?
Oh, I'm going to embarrass myself right now. You, Adam, Case Kiefer. You could look at the big screen and know the I don't really know them by face, the MMA, but obviously UFC fighters. Yeah. And either they drew boos or rounds of applause. I don't know.
There are a bunch of boxers there because there's some signing. You mentioned Shakur Stevenson, who they mis-ID'd is Jalen Williams from OKC.
Well, there's a story behind that.
Which Dana afterwards said something. So what was the story? What happened?
Well, he comes in and somebody said something about that, and he said, you know what, we have to have the worst production.
Oof.
He goes, I just went off because he meets with the production crew, right? And he's talked about how he immediately takes notes throughout it because if you ever look at Dana White during a match or during a card, he's looking down a lot more than he's looking at the octagon because he's watching the production. He said, we got one guy identified. I paid thousands of dollars, Shakur Stevenson, and he's identified as an NBA player. We got another blah, blah, blah. And so he says, somebody mentioned that soccer, the World Cup's in America. No, their defense when he was going off on them was that, well, no, soccer's the worst production because they don't show anybody. He goes, oh, no. Then that makes us the worst because we do put names up under the celebrities. We just put the wrong ones. And dropping F-bombs and just this F-bomb-laced tirade on his production crew in that it was horrible. So I can only imagine. And here's the thing with Dana White. It's not a secret that he can be he's hard on his employees, but that's why also you make the top dollar. You're well paid to get a job done. So if you're going to screw it up, you're going to hear about it, rightfully so.
Ryan Garcia, who is also with Zuffa now, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, John Wall, Dak Prescott, Derwin James, Von Miller. I mentioned Max Crosby, so it was a star-studded event. And then there was some spillover the next day, Sunday, for the Fever in town and Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, obviously Bam was there. Mike Tyson showed up. Lisa Leslie and Dawn Staley were in the house. So you had some WNBA legends. Obviously, Mike Tyson's a legend. And I'm not sure who else in terms of, sometimes they stay very low-key. But there were some NBA players that were mentioned. C.J. McCollum, obviously for the Summer League. And then whether they went to UFC or not, but they definitely came over to the Aces Fever.
So Sophie Cunningham got probably the best pop outside of a WNBA game of any WNBA player this weekend. Number 3. Meanwhile, Kathy Engelbert was at the celebrity golf tournament in Tahoe, and apparently she was supposed to go on with Dan Patrick, who does a radio show over at our sister station, Fox Sports Las Vegas. She canceled really without much notice, and then Patrick went on a 5-minute diatribe. I didn't get to watch it until Saturday morning, what he said about Engelbert, the commissioner of the WNBA, skipping out on a spot with him. I noticed a lot of media people were like, great job, Dan's a legend, he nails it. I watched it, and I thought Dan came off as kind of shaky, mad, and talking about something on the air that probably didn't need to be on the air, and I thought he came off as incredibly sanctimonious.
My question
He's
is...
not, by the way, he's not wrong because he said,
Right.
hey, this is a good opportunity for Kathy Engelbert to come on and answer some questions. But there was this whole attitude like, hey, without me, she's never asked the tough questions. And here's the other thing. I forget who someone said, like, the WNBA is, trying to grow. How dare they miss this opportunity? They've grown just fine without coming on most sports radio shows. Like, believe me, I think we have a level of importance, but I'm not going to be egotistical moron and say that without us, you don't come on with us, you're never going to grow. They've grown. So they're going to be okay. Now, did they handle it correctly? No. Is this too often par for the course with PR people? If they're to blame with the WNBA, yes, it happens a lot.
All right. You mentioned the part, and I got three points here from this. Dan Patrick obviously has gained his respect in the media world from his days on SportsCenter, but I still would like to know who is Dan Patrick that he thinks this is her great opportunity or this is her chance. You know what? Her biggest chances are going on with Ryan Rucco or Rebecca Lobo or going on Ion or going on USA. The networks that are actually putting their games on if she wants to go in and talk. You mentioned it, Steve, but these are the points I also made, is that your show's not make or breaking it to answer the tough questions. And if you don't think that she answers, I know of this is not anything old, especially with what's taken place with the letter from Congress regarding Caitlin Clark, the situation with Caitlin Clark and Alyssa Thomas. I know for a fact that she did a 20-minute off-the-record conversation with a very well-respected reporter, and basically that reporter said, wait a minute, went back after reviewing everything, taking the transcript and saying, I think that this particular quote would work, and I think it would be for what I want to do. They said, no, don't use any of it. And it wasn't even going to come. It was just, it was perfect. Like it was complimentary. Yeah. So that's how private they are. So now my thing is, you asked me before I got here, or when I got here before we went on the air, you said, did you watch the video I told you about over the weekend? I said, not yet. I'm about to watch it. But what if I commented on that video without watching it and said, well, I heard that this, that, and the other. How would that sound if I never listened but told you I didn't listen to it, but someone told me what was said? Well, why didn't you just listen to yourself? Who is he to slam a Kansas City radio show without knowing? Go listen to it. He's talking about, well, I heard that she went on a Kansas City radio show. Why don't you go listen to it instead of telling what you heard? That's hearsay. So that's a bad
he said, I heard
part.
They agreed to give softball questions.
Right. But go listen.
Like listen
How
to the
about if
interview.
I just say, well, I heard this about Dan Patrick.
Yeah. I hear most Dan Patrick interviews suck.
Okay. Yeah.
They don't.
Okay, go listen
I think
to
he's
yourself.
I think he's very good.
Now, that all said, if everything he said is accurate, it's a bad look for the WNBA and Engelbert only because she agreed. It wouldn't have been bad if she declined from jump, but when you agree to it and you're sitting, as he said, 50 yards away from the driving range.
Well, he's doing the rant, and they're showing her freaking duffing shots
right
on the range.
Right, and then when they're doing the far away set, you can see from the set, and in the distance is the driving range. Yeah. So it does look bad, in my opinion, that you agreed to be on the show and then you pulled out. Whether or not the PR team made that decision, whoever it may have been, I know the PR team, and I'm not going to sit here and call out names, but if they went back and said, well, we should have never agreed, or Kathy, you should have never agreed, your people, so we're telling you don't do it. The PR firm, the PR team does hold a little bit of weight and will tell Kathy what to do and not to do if they feel it's not going to benefit. And I think in the situation with as inflammable as it's gotten with, like I said, the basically surrounding Caitlin Clark and the recent things that have taken place,
she's an easy target. And when there's a misstep, the media lines up to smash Kathy Engelbert. But she's kind of brought this on herself. I don't know if she'll go on with Patrick. She probably should. I don't think any of his questions are going to be that tough. I don't think he knows anything about the WNBA, and so I wouldn't fear going on there.
You know what? I got news for you, Dan. You should have been in Vegas last year, right before the WNBA Finals, in that crammed press room that they had us all in, to watch her answer questions about Nafisa Collier and her comments. Because
that was the whole labor struggle.
She was taking fired upon questions that day, and if you don't think that those are she's not used to this was her chance to take hard questions. The media that was covering the WNBA Finals was inside that room that turned into a sweat box, by the way. Do a better job. Yes, I'm calling everybody out, including our own, do a better job, Mandalay. Get us a bigger room for something like that. She was under fire that day. You even asked me about it. We talked about it. Man, was she sweating bullets.
Number 2.
Seahawks sold for over $9.5 billion. So I will go back to the old joke from about 8 years ago now. I guess that protest by all those fans who were all mad at Colin Kaepernick, that's not working out because the NFL continues to sign record-setting TV deals on 9 billion networks. The hunger for NFL football is ridiculous. And now we've got a family that had a small ownership stake in the Niners. They've stepped up to pay $9.6 billion. We don't know a whole lot about them. Is it Khosla family, venture capitalist, but also co-founder of Sun Microsystems. His wife is going to be the official controlling owner. And, yeah, if I'm a Seahawks fan, I'm a little bit concerned because Paul Allen was a good owner. Here's the money. Football people, do what you have to do. I assume these people have enough experience being around the Niners, even as, less than 5% owners, that they're going to be responsible owners. So hopefully this works out for the Seahawks. But it is starting to get mind-boggling that we're approaching $10 billion for, think about it, it's the Seahawks. I mean, what does that mean? Are the Cowboys worth $15 billion?
Well,
what are the New York Giants worth, or Stan Kroenke's Rams worth? $9.6 billion.
A traditional name is going to be worth a lot more.
Right.
So.
But money people respect the money of the NFL and respect that the value of teams is going to continue to grow and grow and grow.
And it's not
by the way, record before this last sale was the Commanders sold for $6.2 billion. That's in DC. With a
lot of baggage.
With baggage, but also the hope that they're going to get a new stadium.
Yeah. I mean, Steve, it's and I think I mentioned this phrase earlier, but we know NFL is king, but realistically, we're seeing it across the board in all sports. The value is going up. I mean, sports is playing a big role in society as much as you want to hate it. And I think if we go back 6 years during COVID when the societal climate was very intense, and I don't think it's really died down. It's just that we've opened up from the pandemic in 6 years where we're at. But from that point forward is we're seeing the impact the sports is having on society, and that's translating to value, however you want to look at it.
Number 1.
Interesting news on the former Lions cornerback Terrion Arnold, who is facing multiple felony charges. A Florida judge ruled on Friday that, yes, he can go visit other clubs, and that's not the ruling. The ruling is he doesn't have to do it with some sort of ankle bracelet or GPS tracker. Are we all comfortable with the Jets, the Seahawks, the Texans, the Colts all reaching out to Arnold, who's facing some pretty serious charges here? And if we are, should the Raiders be looking at a primetime cornerback with the thought that, hey, innocent until proven guilty?
Hey, babe.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
All right, big week of college football on the way. Last week was Big 12 Media Days. This week, before the SEC gets out there, next week in the Big 10 at the end of the month, Mountain West Conference has their Media Days at the Palms. ACC is set up in the middle of the week in Charlotte. So there's going to be some good storylines coming out of the ACC. I want to get to that in a couple minutes. Latest update on the odds for the Mountain West Conference. You know that the Mountain West had the disloyal 5 leave. Colorado State, Fresno State, Boise State, San Diego State, and Utah State.
Yep.
In UTEP, North Dakota State, NIU.
Let's go.
North Dakota State is eligible to win the conference title. They don't have to abide by that 2-year waiting period of FCS to FBS. If you don't know, North Dakota State had won 18 national titles at FCS. Talking to their fans and their media, a lot of them were like, yeah, we were tired of dominating at that level. We wanted the next challenge, so they've taken on the next challenge and paid a lot of money to get into the conference, north of $12 million to get into the conference. They're going to play right away. The odds now for the Mountain West Conference title, New Mexico the favorite at plus 260. UNLV next up at plus 270. North Dakota State third at plus 280. My guess is that North Dakota State, by the time the season kicks off, will be the favorite. Hawaii's next at plus 425. It drops off to 6-1 with Air Force. And then long shots include San Jose, 18-1, 19-1 at William Hill is Wyoming. Nevada is actually down to 27-1. They were 30-1. NIU is 60 and UTEP is 75-1. But at the top, North Dakota State is just about to pass up UNLV.
It's not surprising, and to be honest with you, Steve, I don't know how to say this without sounding ludicrous, because it's going to sound ludicrous, but there's not a big drop-off with the teams like North Dakota State, like the Montana States, to the group of five, I guess if you would call it, the programs, the Americans, the Mountain West, maybe the new Pac-12. They're right there because a lot of these kids are guys that, you know what, you could go to the Mountain West and be the superstar on that team or be part of the, on a mediocre, or you can be an FCS All-American and possibly win a national championship. You could be that good and just maybe not fit in at the Powers, be somewhat of a star here, or be a superstar at the FCS. So I think that North Dakota State's going to fit in perfect in the Mountain West, and I agree with you that they could be the favorite. I don't know about – I think if they were going to be the favorite by preseason, are you talking about from a betting market that there'll be enough money comes in that it'll drive the price to being a favorite, or
yes.
that – oh, okay. I didn't know if you were talking about on air.
The Mountain West is not going to put out a preseason poll.
Go figure. Surprise.
Well, I don't think anyone should.
Well, whether we do or not, but they normally do. Now all of a sudden they're not.
Well, Big 12's not. Big 12 announced that last year. Mountain West announced it about 3 weeks ago. I found a really interesting tool, and I want to see – we're going to run this by Caleb Herring in about an hour as well, former UNLV quarterback, UNLV analyst now. I found a total snaps returning graphic, which at least takes into account where, because a lot of times you'll have – UNLV will have guys come in, from TCU, or they've got a lot of SEC players who've we'll say come down to UNLV, and the snap count thing is kind of interesting. Now, I think schools like New Mexico are going to look good in the total snap count because I think more of their transfer portal work is done bringing guys up to this level or laterally. UNLV is bringing guys down from group of four. So sometimes you're not going to see massive snap counts.
Would you rather have a top-heavy roster with experienced guys who have a lot of snaps, or balance maybe? And so instead of having 10 to 15 with a lot of snaps and then it tails off, or up to 22 to 24 that have it a little more even so that you have depth in terms of snap experience?
I want to mix. I think the way they do it now,
the latter.
I think the way they do it now is smart. They brought back more guys than they have in 4 or 5 years who have experience here with their snap count. They did mix in more dudes they brought in laterally and from below who have a lot of playing experience. But then they have a lot of guys who started out at Power 4, maybe played a little bit of Power 4 but had injury issues. Like Avery Helm's the most intriguing guy, cornerback. He started his freshman year, or maybe it was redshirt freshman year, but he started when Mullen was coaching at Florida. Yeah. And Mullen's bringing him in to be a starter. So his snap count from last year doesn't look great because he's been hurt. But if he gets healthy, then you got a guy who was good enough to play at Florida at the time. You remember Jalen Catalon was a good example of that with Odom. Catalon had emerged at Arkansas, if I'm correct. Arkansas and then Texas, but at Arkansas, he was unbelievable his freshman year and then just kept getting hurt. And then when he came to UNLV, he had a really good year. But there's a lot of guys on this roster who have bounced around, have been at 3 or 4 schools, and they had a year with some good snap counts and other years where they just didn't play. So that's why it's harder than ever to do the preseason polls. And it's kind of futile effort because you're just guessing. You don't know how good they are. You don't know how they're going to adjust to the lower level.
Yeah.
So UNLV, by the numbers, by snap count experience, is 86 in the country on defense and top 35 on offense. Which,
well, what does that tell you, though? See, that's the other thing you have to take in consideration. If that's the case, you don't say, well, the defense didn't get enough. Well, no, that just means that the offense kept the defense off the field and had longer drives. Right?
No.
No?
No, what it tells you is that a lot of the defensive players they have who've come into the program haven't really played a whole lot before this.
If they had a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you have a returning if you have a decent enough returning defense that has a higher number and your offense doesn't, or wait, did you say defense had higher? Okay, now I'm so confused here.
Defense has higher experience with snap counts.
Okay.
In the past.
Yeah. Okay.
And that includes where they played before.
No, I screwed that up.
So offense is less experienced.
Yes. Yeah, okay.
Like they're mixing in, I'll give you an example. On the offensive line, they're mixing in guys who didn't break through where they were.
Right.
Like Jackson Brown is a guy who played at Cal and Pitt. He's 6'6", 305. He's a candidate to play one of the tackles or play at guard. Well, he didn't play a whole lot at Cal and Pitt. They have another kid, Colton Thomason, who is 6'8" and 350 pounds. He was at Baylor and Texas A&M. The offensive line coach knew him because he coached him at Texas A&M. His upside is tremendous, but he hasn't always been in the best shape. But by snap counts, he doesn't have a whole lot of experience. Now, their receiving core, guys who are coming in, have actually played a lot before. Taz Reddick's played a lot at Oregon State. Just like last year's group. There were guys who had played a decent amount at places like Auburn and Arizona State and LSU. So, tool that's worth something, but I wouldn't go gaga about it. And it might be more applicable to group of 4 schools than trying to rank group of 5 where UNLV is. Some of the conclusions that I saw someone come up with from snap counts, they said Virginia has an amazing amount of experience that returns.
Yeah. I think I like the
Indiana,
idea.
believe it or not, actually does still have a lot of experience on its roster, and so does Texas Tech. Number 2 in total snaps overall experience and number 1 in defensive total snaps, and they lost some really good defensive players.
I like the idea of the tool, Steve, but I think that if it were me, I'm sitting here in July. I'm looking at ways to break it down even further to accentuate the angle that you're looking for. So just going right off, well, this snap versus, because like you said, there's some with experience from other schools, injury, take things in consideration. So I think it's effective, but you have to delve a little deeper, have some filters.
There's really no metric that is going to accurately predict what's going to happen with players coming in from the transfer portal.
Yeah.
It's very much a guessing game. And the biggest thing is you get out to practice and you see who's excelling and who looks comfortable and who's blending in with their new coaches and new offense and new defense. ACC football media days are also happening in the middle of the week. Some of the biggest stories. Do we care about Belichick now? Or is this just a guy who's running a 6-win program and has kind of shown, I mean, I guess you got to give him a chance to see what he did with the portal and with recruiting. I don't think he has a coaching advantage over most of his cohorts in the ACC, and I don't think he's going to put in enough work to recruit the right way.
I think there's more interest out there in Belichick and when he retires than what he's going to do with North Carolina. I don't necessarily. I think the whole, the clickbait happy. I think that they'll still be there over the girlfriend thing or his personal life. But I think more than anything, it's when is this guy going to retire once and for all?
North Carolina is 25-1 to win the ACC. That's not right. They're 125-1. They are picked 15th out of 17 teams. 17 teams.
Yes.
The story to me actually is what sort of jump can James Franklin, who got booted from Penn State. I don't know if that was a great move by Penn State. What kind of move or what kind of impact can he have immediately at VTech? Probably pretty good because he took a bunch of Penn State players. He robbed their recruiting class. And Virginia Tech is a good football program.
For me, Miami's favored, SMU, Louisville. It's where from Virginia to California to Florida State, like in that range. Who's emerging? Who's going to be the surprise?
Well, I think the other glaring thing is that conference wants to consistently get at least 2 or 3 teams in to a CFP. Clemson at 14-1 to win the conference ain't good for that conference at all, which, again, plays to the point with the transfer portal. You either embrace it, you do your homework, you find your formula that works, or you can be a stubborn ass like Dabo Swinney, and now you're looking at a program that every year was top 8 coming into the season, to now they're 14-1 to win their own conference, which is considered the 4th weakest conference out of the or the weakest out of the CFP.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
Do we want to gripe about the starting times for the World Cup? Next 2 days. Noon starts, our time, 3 o'clock Eastern. I've seen a lot of people complaining in the United States that
Too bad.
why are they starting these games so early? Now, they didn't know who was going to make the finals or semifinals, but this works out nicely. I mean, really not. It's still freaking 8, 9 o'clock at night in, France, Spain, I have to look at time zones, England, and then
in the UK, it's
Argentina. Argentina's a little more along our lines.
Well, you know what? When England played Mexico, it was at 1 a.m, and the pubs, which I think are supposed to close at, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone in my TikTok chat that's from UK, I believe that the pubs are supposed to close at 1 or 2 in the morning. They extended the time till 6 a.m. I saw the people, like, nobody was really complaining in my TikTok community from the UK saying, oh, man, the match doesn't start till 1 in the morning our time. They were all getting a kick out of it, making their plans to be a part of it, like, oh, we're going to go out, we're going to kick it, we're going to do this, we're going to stay up for breakfast, we're going to have beans over toast, we're going to celebrate. So they're catering a little bit for both in terms of doing an afternoon in America and to cater to the countries that are in it. Too bad. Suck it up. It's not, it's the more and more entitlement that I hear and see is just fascinating. It's not a big deal. I'm not complaining about the start times.
William Hill odds on World Cup. I know you had England to win it, right?
Yes, I did.
I don't think you bet it, but that was your pick.
I did.
We're down to France plus 150. Spain 3-1. They face off. England is plus 333, and Argentina is 4-1.
It's going to be England. Argentina is going to be a good match, but I think that they're to get to the final. They're in a better position against Argentina than they would be if they were playing France or Spain, because I think France obviously has Mbappe, but they have a well-rounded team around him. Spain, the same. Argentina's got Messi. And when you rely completely on that guy, I think as he goes, the team goes. Not saying that they're not capable with good players, but they move as he moves. They go as he goes. England's been playing really good defensive soccer, football, if you're in the UK. And my reason for picking England a month and a half ago, when everybody else was picking France, Spain, Argentina, Germany, Brazil, even the people in the UK going, well, we want our home country. We want to bring it home, but I'm going to pick France because they're the favorite. Or, I got the young cats that are arguing with me going, well, there's a reason that they're the favorite, Willie. We'd love for them to win, yes, but they're probably not going to win it. I barely heard anybody over there saying England's with picking England. Harry Kane and Bellingham have been fantastic, but the reason I gave was Jordan Pickford. You've heard me say his name on this show. The goaltender for Everton in the English Premier League. I said he was going to have a huge tournament, and he has. They're playing outstanding defense. If they can sort of just bottle up Messi and make it difficult him to execute and create and score, which I know sounds impossible because it damn near is, I think it opens things up for them at the other end, and England has a great chance to get to the final. Then again, what do I know?
That was good. 80 seconds.
I act like I'm some expert.
80 seconds. You are now. You're you're all over TikTok in the UK. They love you there. They schooled you on soccer, football.
Yeah, so much. I got to study up my EPL for next season, though.
There you go. Get it together. We got a great show coming up at the Sahara. Totally tubular. 80s bands like Thomas Dolby, Flock of Seagulls, The Motels, The Producers. It's at the pool at the Sahara coming up on the 25th. 364-1100 is the number. Caller 7. Go to the Sahara box office to online to get your tickets if you don't win these. 364-1100, 364-1100, caller 7. We're going to check in Kansas City in about 20 minutes. Talk to Soren Petro about his Kathy Engelbert conversation. Also some looks at Big 12 football. But on the way back, Aces lose. What a weird weekend. Blowout win, blowout loss.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
Weird weekend with the Las Vegas Aces. Absolute wipeout on Saturday against the Mercury, and then the Fever did it to him again. What the heck happened?
I personally am chalking it up to exhaustion. I really am, because
How could they be exhausted? The night before, they had half the game off.
exactly. No. It's third game in 4 nights. I'm not. Look, it's not an excuse, but at the same token, the Fever had a week off, or damn near close to a week off, coming into this. So, you know, they're rested, and the Aces are playing their third game in 4 nights. I think the Fever were playing their second game in 3 days, and they had went to L.A. first, if I'm not mistaken. So they had some time off. They were rested. Kaylin Clark made a return. No, actually, I apologize. I'm wrong on that. They had some time. They had a bunch of time off. They went to L.A. She played. She was off for the Phoenix game, and then she played in this one. Sophie Cunningham went off. Boy, a weekend for her. Ring girl to a 3-point shootout with her boy Dana White watching in attendance. I just think that I really do just think that the Aces fell asleep in this one, and they just couldn't go back to back. You put all that into Saturday night's big win, and you're playing against a super fast team. And defense has been Becky Hammon's biggest concern the entire season. She said it since training camp. She wasn't happy with the way they performed in the 2 exhibition games. So, they have a week off. They have to get healthy. Asia just got – yes, she had that monster night against Phoenix, but she is coming off an injury. Dana Evans made her debut. And, hey, let's acknowledge it. Their spark plug off the bench is no longer on the team. So, you know, they have some questions to answer there if they're going to go after somebody by the deadline in the first week of August, if they're going to bring in and make a splash move there. And I wouldn't put it past them because – you know, there are going to be some teams that now look and say, well, we're not going to make that run into the playoff race, into the top 8, into the postseason, and let's build for the future. Or let's try, and they shuffle someone over, and you never know what's going to happen because you know what? You got a no-tax state. You're playing in Las Vegas. It's that culture of the locker room. Everyone count. You know what's funny is the Aces are 1/2 game out of first place. They had the best. They've been jockeying for the top position in the WNBA standings with the Minnesota Lynx. They're 1/2 game back. The Lynx play tonight. Last year, at 28 games, they were 14-14. At times, they were below 500, and they were in jeopardy of not even making the playoffs. They bring in Alyssa Smith, and then they make that huge 16-game winning run to close the regular season. The season is far from over.
26, 30, 33, 34. Those are some of the losses this year.
Yep.
Out of the 7 losses. So is it clear, like they get to the third quarter and they're out of the game, that's it, we pull the plug? Because they got destroyed in the fourth quarter yesterday. It was, 29-11?
No, there have been some where they've been knocked out in the first round of a 15-round fight, and then they're just done the entire. All they're doing is just standing. Yeah. They're Muhammad Ali against Holmes, and they're just taking a beating the entire fight.
The 3 of the 4 games I mentioned with those big point differentials where they got crushed.
Yeah.
1 with the Wings, 2 with the Fever. Are those 2 squads that come playoff time they do not want to meet up with because of matchups?
Anybody.
I mean, yesterday the Fever went 15. Well, those 2 though.
I'm saying anybody who does not want him. Oh, wait, each other?
I'm saying the Wings and the Fever are matchup problems for the Aces based on the fact that they have put up 3 of the 4 biggest blowouts against the Aces. They were 15 of 31 from three on Sunday.
Yeah.
The Fever were, and they shot 56%.
Yeah.
And Caitlin Clark was on a minutes limit. So what'd she have? 12 points in 24 minutes.
Something like that. Is that what it was?
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen. And that's why I'm saying, yes, that's someone that the Aces, we're talking about the Aces, obviously, but those are two teams that nobody wants to meet up with because the Wings have been good, and they're now on another heater. The Fever are going to get better and better. So, yes, those are the two, and they're young, right? I mean, Kelsey Mitchell, think about this. The two OGs that are still superstars on those two teams are two of the most dangerous scorers in the league. Arike Ngumbawale, who can catch fire at any given time, and Kelsey Mitchell, who I still say is the best scorer on the Indiana Fever. Not Caitlin Clark. Kelsey Mitchell is the best scorer on that team. And then, oh, by the way, you have Caitlin Clark. Oh, and then, by the way, you have Aaliyah Boston. And then you have Sophie Cunningham. So, yes, those two teams are teams you do not want to meet up with in the postseason. And I'm going to give you one team right now. July 13th. I want you to remember I said it because I know that you know. I will remind you if they do something big. The team that nobody's going to expect to be there and be a thorn. Like last year's Fever without Caitlin Clark that took the Aces to overtime in the fifth and decisive game. The Washington Mystics. Incredibly young talent. Sonia Citron is phenomenal. Kiki Iriafen. If they're healthy, going into the playoffs, they're going to be a nightmare.
Did Clark annoy you when she seemed to embellish a little bit? Didn't she go down to the floor claiming that playing defense, that I don't know what she got, elbowed in the crotch or the stomach or something? Crowd was a little annoyed.
Well, what happened was Chelsea Gray came in and it sort of just she was like you would if you're trying to back down near the post. She gives a little nudge and Caitlin Clark stands there. Chelsea Gray turns, shoots. Caitlin Clark turns to watch the play, then went down, and then starts. What
was the crowd reaction?
Well, when she got up and started, you know what? The crowd didn't really do anything.
Right? She wanted a review or so.
Well, they came over, they consoled her. Oh, what's wrong? And I immediately went to Slack, which is like the communication device with your media vendor or your job, whatever. I went into AP. And I was waiting to go. Clark just went down. Do you want me to write a breakout? Yeah. But then
every time. Right?
Then all of a sudden she props up, and she went from in pain, writhing, holding her stomach to getting up and getting in the refs' faces, and she was fine. So flop was on.
Watching a lot of World Cup soccer.
Professional flop was on. Or just game film of herself.
What would happen if the WNBA and the NBA started policing flopping and faking like soccer does sometimes? Now, World Cup went overboard. They ejected a player on Switzerland for embellishing. And Switzerland tried to hold on by just going in a defensive shell for the next 40 minutes, but could not survive. Eventually got outpaced 3-1 by Argentina. I wonder if they policed it more strongly, because they were supposed to in basketball in general, and then they stopped doing it. I know in college basketball 3 years ago they were going to do it, and they did. They officiate hard for a while and warn people, don't embellish, and then they just back off and it goes back to normal. And players are allowed to flop and fall over and then piss and moan and whine and gesture at the officials. It's getting old. Everyone does it. Not everyone, but all leagues are doing it. It sucks.
Here's the thing: if you know what you're doing, and like yesterday was over dramatized. There was a lot of dramatics involved in that. Let's not get carried away with how the flopping is taking place. Now, don't get me wrong. If someone's coming in, or you see someone with the ball and they're coming up high with the elbow and it catches you, and you can pull it off. But let's not be obvious as to what you're doing.
Who's this new lady they got from Indiana? Didn't she have a big breakout with a bunch of threes?
Justine Prasad had a breakout performance the night before against Phoenix. She went to Vanderbilt. She's a big that can score. She's not afraid to go up, and Becky Hammond even said, you know what I think about shooters, and she's a shoot first kind of mentality as far as not being afraid to do it as a big. So with a big body, I think she's just going to need I mean, she kind of got in the game. It's kind of like that 21-year-old Steve you take out to the casinos for the very first time, and you're like, nobody touch their hands, let them get the dice, and let them throw. I think she come in for her debut because she was on a development contract with the Indiana Fever. They sign her off the development contract. She comes in her rookie debut, she goes off against the Phoenix Mercury. Yesterday, she come in. She had some time, but she really didn't do much, and she also didn't shoot much either. So it's not as if we saw a big sample. She just ate up some minutes, I think, to give the starters a few minutes to breathe. But I think that she'll work fine because of her size and her knack for shooting. Becky likes that. They'll work with her all week. They'll take advantage of this week, not only to heal, but work her into the system. And I think she'll be fine. I'll be out there actually at some point this week to talk to her for a one-on-one, sort of a who is Justine Passat feature.
Go back to the trade deadline. Are they going to look to replace Kennedy Carter in terms of position, or just find scoring, find someone well-rounded? But I got to mention real quick, did you get much pushback on, it wouldn't be pushback, on Kennedy Carter going bye-bye? I was surprised by the number of fans who reacted to some of the social media posts I put up who were making the claim that Kennedy Carter got screwed.
Yeah, I just think it. I mean, a lot of the ones I saw was on TikTok where you see their video and it looks like it's green screen behind you, and they were coming out because I don't want to say it was just for clicks because they had valid points. The problem is the valid points don't outweigh the real issue. Like, what are you doing? This is a sixth player of the year candidate, and look at her averages, and then comparing her averages to other people throughout around the league. Yeah, but sometimes this doesn't fly in the locker room with certain organizations, and you're not going to be a problem child. And I'm not saying she was. We don't know what the issue was, but Becky Hammon was asked about it, her pregame before Phoenix, and she said, I'm not going to discuss players that are not here anymore. So we don't
By the way, did anyone go back to it on Sunday and ask again?
No.
Why not?
Well, because she's already said she's not going to. What are you pressing her for? I know you like to do that, but for what?
Because it's a basketball issue.
But if she already said, I'm not going to discuss players that aren't here, well, I know you said you weren't going to discuss yesterday. Are you going to discuss it today? She's not going to discuss it.
Well, Becky, you did discuss, what was that lady's name? Kate Martin? Is that the one? Who was the Iowa tie to Caitlin Clark?
Yeah.
You discussed her when she was gone? Once you got rid of her?
What did she say?
I don't know. I can pull it up.
She wasn't. No,
it was a couple years ago.
She didn't get rid of Kate Martin. She protected 5 people. There's a difference between getting rid of somebody and protecting Asia Wilson, Jackie Young, Kia Stokes, or whoever the 5 that you protect for an expansion draft. Otherwise, I mean, somebody asked, well, I protected these 5. If you can argue why Kate Martin should have been protected over one of those 5, there's a difference between waiving somebody and not protecting somebody over those 5 players. What's it? I mean, does that make sense?
Would you recommend Kennedy Carter to another organization?
Yes. Because
not you. That's for Becky.
We don't know.
Becky, would you recommend Kennedy Carter for another organization?
That's a legitimate question.
Becky, the organization has had problems on the HR front. Is this an HR or lawsuit situation? Is that why you can't discuss it? By the way, I'm not getting on you to ask these questions.
No. I know you're not. I'm trying to think if that's.
I just think I see around the WNBA a lot of times it's like, we're not going to answer that. Well, I'm not going to accept that.
Here's the thing.
There's a story here, and you brought her in. Could this potentially take down the season? Maybe, because that is an issue going back. They could have elected to bring someone else in that spot at the beginning of the year and have that person in the fold now for 30 games or whatever they're at. It's 24 games. They cost themselves a shot at another player. You took a risk on Kennedy Carter. It didn't work out. Did you make a mistake in even wasting the 22 games with her? We have like 10 seconds.
I don't know if that last one's a legitimate question. The first 2 are.
Okay. Because you actually, we'll address this in the grab bag, you wrote a story of Kennedy Carter landing spots. I can't imagine anyone is going to take a chance on her, but that's the story moving forward.
Live from the Findlay Toyota studio, you're listening to ESPN Las Vegas.
All right, rolling on 5 o'clock hour. We're tracking what's going on in the NBA Summer League. We'll get to a little bit of that and some of the top performers from the weekend. Right now, we've got Dallas and Memphis going at it, so another look at Cam Boozer as he's got 11 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Dallas out to a 50-44 lead in the big building with about 5 seconds left in the half. Tomorrow, we will be on the road, Willie. Well, you won't be, but I'll be on the road with John Von Tobel back at the NBA Summer League. We will be joined by Josh Pastner.
Oh, nice.
For about an hour. I feel like that might not be enough time. James, we're good. What do you think? How many questions? 6? How many do I get in? He comes on like a house of fire, and he takes off.
4.
Well, Coach's Show, if you remember, Matt Neverett was on all the Coach's shows. I pitched in on a bunch of them. Pastner would come out with his State of the Union address every week, and that would take 8 minutes. So I don't know if after all this time, it actually might be more dangerous if I just go, "Hey, Josh, what do you got to say?" And that's the first 2 blocks of the spot. So, but I have a lot of questions for him. He's going to answer the tough questions. Finally. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I'm doing a Dan Patrick. I'm doing a Dan Patrick impression as Dan Patrick went off over the weekend because Kathy Engelbert and her PR team flubbed, no-showed for an interview, and then Dan Patrick basically did this self-aggrandizing, if she doesn't come out with me, she's not going to face the tough questions. I'm going to be fair.
That would have made
relax, Dan.
That would have made for a great drop right there where you said that. What are you going to ask now? My favorite color. Jack Nicholson, Few Good Men.
Let me finish up on the Kennedy Carter thing, the kind of the mystery around this situation. On one hand, the Aces cut her. I respect that they cut her. If they were having problems with her, good. Don't guarantee her contract. But I would like to know more about what happened. And it is going to be a story at the end of the season. If they don't have enough help on the bench and they fall short of a title, and that's the only acceptable outcome for the Aces every year, they're one of the title favorites every year. If they fall short, did they waste 20-plus games trying to develop and mix in a player who has shown she does not want to mix in with anyone? And that's why she's been dumped now by every organization.
Well, and I think they also owe it to whether they believe it or not, which I think this is not just the WNBA, but PR staffs as a whole across that league. But I think we see this a lot of times where they don't think that they owe anybody an explanation for anything. But the fact of the matter is, especially in the WNBA this year, when you're talking about brand marketing, you're talking about season tickets, you're talking about a team that has rebranded itself, and I don't mean colors and logos and whatnot, but in a sense, what they're selling, how they've shifted the media, they're opening up more VIP sections to this, to that, moving to T-Mobile, your ticket price, whatever it may be, you owe it to your season ticket holders some answers.
Right, but here's the thing. Who is going to police that? The league?
No. I don't think it's a make it.
You know
a
what I mean?
rule.
It's like, hey,
Make
if the league PR is like, hey, you got to answer questions to be a little more forthcoming, be more available, and they would look back and go, well, you're not. Kathy Engelbert's not available. She's cutting out on interviews.
Right. I'm not saying
the Fever aren't. You don't do anything with the Fever. I'm making points here.
Yeah.
It's like it's a league that still is experiencing growing pains from a PR standpoint, even though it's blown up in terms of the TV deal and player salaries.
From your experience, though, where does that? How do you rectify that? Do you clean house from the start and say, hey, the top?
Well, I think they need a new commissioner. I think they need someone who's got more experience. I think she's overwhelmed by the job. I think they need some retooling in the commissioner's office because they've mishandled some things. Here's the flip side, by the way. We deal locally with another organization that is like, we're going to do whatever we want. And what the media normally expects in terms of access or answers, we're not going to do it. You know why? Because you sons of didn't cover us for years and years and years. We're going to do it the way we want. And guess what's happened? The UFC has made it. So if Dana White and previously the Fertittas were like, hey, we're not doing it the way everyone else does. We're not the NFL. We're not the NBA. We're not Major League Baseball. The Aces could look at it the same way. Like, hey, you guys didn't back us. We had to fight and claw, scratch our way to all this. You didn't cover us. Screw off.
I don't know why I thought you were going to go to the Golden Knights when you started that.
Oh, I think the Golden Knights are still closer to a traditional organization. Like Kelly McCrimmon. When Kelly McCrimmon, he did sort of apologize at the end of the season for the way a couple of things were handled.
It was off one thing, though.
Yeah.
Right? The Tortorella thing.
Okay. Well, you think Dana White would do that?
He coming in. Dana
Do
White
you think,
apologize.
do you think Becky Hammond is going to do it?
She might come in and go, I was wrong.
Right.
I was wrong.
I didn't think she needed to apologize for the Brunson thing. I thought the demands of she has to apologize for that. She gave a take on a basketball player. She was wrong. She said she was wrong. It's not. None of us have to apologize for giving a hot take, especially when you're working in the media.
UFC isn't made up of teams. They're made up of fighters. So in a sense, Dana White would consider like the head coach. He's the president, but he's the coach, right?
I think he's more like a commissioner, and
okay.
and the teams actually. That's the funny thing about UFC. The teams, trainer and then whatever, 11, 12, 15 big time fighters. They're more cooperative.
Well, what I was going to say,
they're more cooperative than you'd expect. The Axis is actually very good, especially if you're local.
What I was going to say is this: out of the four entities, because you brought in UFC, Aces, Raiders, Golden Knights, and UFC. There's really no team. Dana would be, like you said, the commissioner. He's the president of UFC, right?
President, yeah.
The person with the biggest ego, and I don't want to use arrogant, but at times, out of the head coaches, Becky Hammond. You got a brand new coach in Clint Kubiak. You got a brand new coach in Ryan Craig. So at this point, the person with the biggest ego, biggest chip, is a 3-time champion coach in Becky Hammond.
Speaking of the Raiders, couple things. First of all, highly advised if you haven't in the audience, go back and watch Max Crosby and his podcast. He did 45 minutes with Fernando Mendoza. Did you watch?
No.
Watch the whole thing. Very good. I thought Mendoza came off as more normal. He didn't have that shield up that he normally has up. Gave some real answers. I thought there was some really good back and forth.
Did Max ask him the tough questions?
I don't think it was that type of conversation.
You know who would ask the tough questions?
Who's that?
Kansas City Radio.
I don't know. Dan Patrick said they don't. When he got stiffed by Kathy Engelbert, he tried to throw Kansas City Radio under the bus, saying that, well, she went on there because they agreed not to give her tough questions. Speaking of that, Soren Petro works at WHB in Kansas City. He's been on in KC forever. Soren, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. I think I'm known as softball lobber now.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, we heard that a couple of years ago with Paul Feinbaum when you went on with him. I mean, you were a puss with him. So your reputation, come on, man, toughen up, Buttercup.
You're as big as king in his court. Remember that old softball team?
Yeah, that's it. That's me. Yeah, I can pitch from way over to the side.
So did you get wind of what Patrick was talking about in his little hissy fit, his sanctimonious take that he needs to interview people to ask tough questions that they don't get anywhere else, and kind of threw you guys under the bus?
That he did. Yeah. So I started hearing about it on Saturday. We actually did the interview on Thursday when we were out there in Tahoe, and I started hearing the blowback on Saturday about, and I listened to the whole thing and the whole spiel. And look, I get the hey, someone said they'd do it and then they didn't do it. I get the frustration with that. I think we all do.
Yeah,
like you plan on something like how I'm late right now because I was washing dishes at the house and I forgot to give you the home number. Yeah, for the backup. So I get it. I get frustration. Maybe you guys are feeling towards me right now. No. So let me preface that. I understand that. But let me tell you how the whole they waited around 2 hours to tape this interview. Let me tell you how that deal works there. I get to the golf course. My show is 2 to 6 in Kansas City, which is noon to 4 in Tahoe. I get to the golf course between 7 and 8, and I'm there to tape for 5 hours before my show, 4 to 5 hours before my show. And then when I'm done at 4, I stay till 6 for anybody that might be out on the driving range to be able to tape them. So we waited 2 hours. That's what you do if you want to get the people out there. They have golf tee times. They have other events, other things they have to get to. They don't just come over whenever you beckon them at whatever time, because there are obligations you have when you play in that tournament. So we, as the media that are there covering these people, have to be aware of that and have to expand our time. So I thought that was, a little bit foolish on what was said. Also, she's just 50 yards away. So feel free to come off your throne and walk over the 50 yards and talk to her yourself. What is this sending Scooter or Skippy or whatever cute little nickname everybody on that show has, and having them come over and talk to the commissioner for you. Do what we did. The president of my company walked over to her and said, hey, can you have her on? That's another thing. Couple things. One, we agreed to only talk about expansion. That's not it. We said, will you come on? And she said yes. We didn't give any list of things that we were going to talk about. The quote-unquote hard questions. Listen, Caitlin Clark and everything that's gone on with Caitlin Clark and the death threats and all those different things mean zero in Kansas City. There is no WNBA franchise. What matters in Kansas City is the fact that they would like a WNBA franchise. And the Long family, who owns the Kansas City Current, who have been immensely successful in the NWSL, they want to be the ownership. They've got plenty of money. They built the first, and I think still only, women's-only soccer stadium in the world, right? So that's great ownership. So we're thinking, okay, we've got a great market here. Patrick and Mahomes and his wife want to be part of the ownership group. They're part of the Current ownership group and Sporting and the Royals. And so it's like, okay, we got a great group here. This is what we're interested in Kansas City. I get if you're doing a national show that the talk that's going, or if you have a WNBA franchise, talking about individual players and individual stories is of note. Nobody in Kansas City cares. So we didn't specify what we're going to talk about. She sat down and didn't know what I was going to talk about. But what my listeners care about is, are we going to add another arena down by the river and down by where the Current stadium is and have another franchise in there? So that's what I spent the 10 whole minutes that I was given to talk to her about. If I were given an hour, sure, I'd dive into everything else. But the whole journalism and the tough questions, I mean, first of all, and now you got me going here because I did a spiel on this today. But, the whole thing about, like, you want to be legit, come on here and talk about it.
Right.
And then he points out that the NFL commissioner doesn't come on. Well, wait a minute. If the NFL commissioner doesn't come on, are we saying the NFL's not legit because they don't come on the Dan Patrick show? Then thereby, isn't the commissioner of the WNBA not coming on your show? Doesn't that then make her legit? Isn't that the whole reason? So the whole thing was, listen, it's lazy, and talking journalism when you didn't even listen to my interview, don't even know what the conversation was, didn't come over and ask us about what was said, but you're going to draw all the conclusions on that and then sit here and sit on your high horse and say you're the only one that'll ask the tough questions. It's asinine.
Yeah. And he got a lot of pats on the back from folks, but a lot of it's because Kathy Englebert's reputation has been kind of lousy, and it seems like all the daggers are pointed at her, so she's an easy target. But when I watched it, like you, I was like, relax, Dan. Okay, you're throwing a hissy fit over not getting a guest spot here. Like I said, you're coming off as sanctimonious. You're not the only one who asked tough questions. Cut it out. And I'm glad you pulled back the curtain. No, at these events, because you guys were both at the celebrity golf tournament in Tahoe, and yeah, sometimes even as the if you think you're the biggest host there, things aren't going to always come easy to you, and you got to go. You have to do it, or someone else has to go and hustle up interviews.
Yeah, well, but if you've got an issue with her, get off your ass, walk the 50 yards, and go talk to her. Don't sit here in the high like, well, she didn't come to my studio where I was 50 yards away. Well, you didn't walk over to her. I mean, I watched this happen in Kansas City. It was always like I'd see people who were trying to make their name firing at Carl Peterson or whoever the coach is, like, well, they won't come on my show. Well, you don't go. I go down to Arrowhead and set meetings and go talk to the people where their offices are. Do I think that they should just come on whenever? Yes, but sometimes you have to work the relationship. Yes, you do. And I'll tell you, furthermore, as far as the whole throwing a tirade because she didn't come on, lots of people stiff you. Robert Saleh, your former head coach with the Jets, now the Titans head coach, told us no less than 7 times that he was going to come on with us and would be walking by and would be like, hey, coach, is now good? Oh, I'm going to hit some balls. And then he'd sneak out the other way. Oh, hey, coach, is now good? Oh, I got to run over and do this, and then I'll be back over. Said it every time. Like, so I don't go on. I'm bringing it up now, but we didn't care. You just go ask the next person. There's a 90-plus player field of people with at least half of that being good quality guests that you can get. So to throw a tantrum and to be the tough guy because the one of, I think, 2 female players in the tournament didn't come sit down on you, wow, that's ballsy. Because did all the coaches one by one go over there? Was Kevin O'Connell over there? Was Robert Saleh? Because I would think that if, since you're so mainstream, you would have wanted to have all those. Did every one of those guys go on over there? It was Patrick Mahomes on over there when he's in town. I don't know, but I guarantee you other people have said no. And so when they say no, is there the same tirade? If not, then you're just picking the female commissioner to be the tough guy on.
Speaking with Soren Petro, WHBKC. Soren, and on that note, I think you glanced over it too in talking about, what you were there to talk to Kathy about. People don't understand, or they're going to hear him because he's on a national voice, that
Right.
you have an agenda in what's going to be interesting to your listeners in that. If we had Kathy Engelbert on with the aces in town, the 3-time champs, the defending champs, we might ask about the physicality and the letter to Congress and this because we have WNBA listeners. Not saying you don't have WNBA fans there, but if Patrick Mahomes is there for a charity golf event and he sits in with Dan Patrick, he may be likely to ask a little softer questions where you might be asking a little more hard-hitting. Everybody's different. Everybody's agenda has to be different based on the audience that they're dealing with. How much are people missing this point?
I think he's missing it completely. I mean, I think, audience expectation is, listen, I'll relate it to comedians. I got friends that are in stand-up comedy and they'll come off and, one guy says, hey, how was the crowd? The crowd's terrible. They don't get it. They're dumb. All they want are, fart and poop jokes. Well, then tell them fart and poop jokes. Like, your job is to make them laugh. Like, you have to be able to adapt to what it is. When you're in Kansas City, like, our lead topic is not the NBA until we get to, like, the NBA Finals, right? And even then, if the Royals are hot, we're going to talk Royals first, and then the NBA Finals are going to be down behind it. You reach out to the audience that you have. I mean, Steve, you know that more than anybody, being in Vegas, going from Vegas being a town with no teams to now being a town with every team, yep. Right? The dynamics of how you prepare a show and what you're talking about completely change. So from a national perspective, they go the way I always describe it is, they go 100 miles wide and an inch deep. From a local perspective, we might go 3 miles wide and 50 miles deep because, like, where we are is what matters. And so they're just going to go for what is if it's not Caitlin Clark, how often is he talking about the WNBA?
Never.
Right? Is he actually getting into the matchups? Is he talking about where we're talking about Jalen Brunson and who's going to guard him and Karl Anthony Towns, should he be in the game? Does he ever do that with the WNBA? No. Whatever is sensationalized at that time are the topics that, generally speaking, nationally, you're going to gravitate towards. I've done ESPN weekends off and on, for a while, and that's where you go because you're trying to reach the entire country. And does regular season, does somebody want to hear the Aces, point guard matchup with whoever they're playing that night? Probably not, right? But so when you come to Kansas City and we don't even have a franchise, getting the franchise is what it's all about. So we talked about arena ownership, market size, whether or not, you have to be, how much breaking away from being tied to NBA franchises are. We talked about the things that are relevant to Kansas City. But what I think is even worse is he didn't even listen to the interview. Yeah. So he doesn't even really know what we talked about. I also asked her, what does it feel like to be booed as the commissioner? Yeah. And we got into that. She talked about, said, well, I can't remember if it was her son or daughter, said, well, I guess you've arrived, Mom, because that's what they do with, Roger Goodell. And that's what, so, I mean, we talked about the fact that she's not the most popular person, but that also comes with the territory. What commissioner in any sport is universally liked? I mean, that's part of their job is to take arrows for the owners.
Soren Petro, Kansas City WHP is with us. Let's go rapid fire because I had a bunch of questions on the tournament itself in Tahoe. What was the best conversation you had this week?
Doc Rivers. I'd say Doc Rivers. John Smoltz was really good. He's still pretty old school in his pitching view. Derek Carr, I guess I should say him. He was fun. Wow. I don't know why you guys are all uptight about Derek Carr. Seemed like a swell guy.
Well, he's duplicitous, so that's fine. He's good on interviews like that. He's duplicitous. If you want to say what was the worst conversation of the week, or if you don't want to specify this week, what's the worst conversation you ever had at any of these Tahoe tournaments? Because you're there every year.
Well, it's been long enough, and he hadn't been back since. Yeah. I mean, Rodney Harrison spilled a beer on my equipment once. Okay. That was interesting. And then, but I asked Marshall Falk. I said, you don't have to do this,
Woo! That's my worst too. I will never forget it. It was like I asked him the most inane question, and he had a complete attitude like I was some hairdresser at NFL Network. That's a shot.
Yeah, that one. That was. Yeah, that one didn't go too well.
No.
That didn't go too. You know who else? And this was awful. I'll tell you one that didn't go well. And they're told when they get there to be kind to everybody around, be kind to everybody from American Century, NBC, Caesars Harris, because those are the three big sponsors and everything. Yeah. And be kind to the fans. Don't slow down play during the tournament. But if you get a chance to sign some autographs or say hi or take a picture, please do all that. We want this to be a great event for everybody. And if you don't, you won't be invited back. Well, I think he was a one and done. We keep track of Lawrence Taylor was a one and done. Ben Roethlisberger, for obvious reasons, was a one and done. And then a guy who has my wife actually at the hospital as an occupational therapist had his aunt as a patient, Don Cheadle.
Really?
Had just a sour ass attitude. And I was like, my wife actually knows your aunt. I said her name. He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I don't think so. I'm like, yeah, she was at, Research Medical Center, this and that. No interest. Like, yeah, no, yes, no.
Yeah.
So yeah, Don Cheadle was pretty bad, which is disappointing because he's a Kansas City guy.
You should have Dan Patrick on.
Yeah.
we have reached out.
Good.
I'll get closer than. Well, I probably won't get closer than 50 yards. I don't know where he is. Yeah. But you can pick up the phone. We'll call. I might answer. If you call the backup line.
Did you have a good time in Tahoe? Is it still cool?
I always have a great time in Tahoe. I don't have a great time getting to or from Tahoe. For you guys, it's not bad because it's a straight trip. But I got to go. You got everything all your airport stuff getting there. And then for some reason, we booked end of the day. Again, and the end of the day is when all the delays come in flights, and it's summer, so there's heat and there's thunderstorms and there's problems. So from my door to the door of my hotel was both directions was a little over 11 hours with connections, and you got to drive back down to Reno and all that. So for us, the getting there, the to and from is a lot, but when you're there, it's fantastic. I mean, it's beautiful. The weather's great. It's low key, but still a big deal. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I didn't see if you broadcast from Big 12 football media days. It doesn't matter. In general, what was the biggest takeaway for Kansas City market out of the Big 12 media days?
Yeah, Todd was down there. Todd Lebo was there. We had on Lance Leipold and Colin Klein, the KU and K-State coaches, ADs, and those things. I think the biggest takeaway for me was Brett Yormark got asked, obviously, first question, the commissioner of the Big 12, about where things are with Texas Tech. Yeah. And he said, I appreciate the question, but this is not the time to have that discussion. Huh? This is a time to celebrate our football teams. At Big 12 Media Day. Yeah. If now isn't the time at Big 12 Media Day to ask, because you've taken no questions about Brendan Thorsby and Texas Tech and now Cincinnati, by the way, being under investigation. If now is not the time, when is it? Yeah. Stop calling it Big 12 Media Days. Call it Big 12 Celebration Days. And just admit you're a gutless individual. You're a brand manager. You have no commissioner skills whatsoever. All you are is a glorified salesman, and of which running around wanting, rose petals thrown at your feet because you signed a deal with Monster Energy that's going to get every school a whole $1 million. There's a kid in my daughter's class who's already been offered scholarships to SEC schools as a long snapper. Do you know how much NIL they're talking about? $200,000 to $300,000. Wow. And this guy's running around excited because he's got a deal where every team in every field in every court has to put a Monster Energy logo on it, and they're all going to get collectively about $16 million. Whoop-de-blanking do.
By the way, two great things out of that. He asked the guy who asked the question about Texas Tech to stand up. I was like, are we going to have a fight? And secondly, did he run the Monster Energy deal by the Mormons?
I don't know.
Think about that one. Yeah, they're not real big on that. I mean, whatever their dirty soda is, they can do that. But I don't think they're big energy drink people. So you cut a deal that really they can't push the product. It's a little weird. Yeah. Come on, Brett.
Yeah, trust me. I can only imagine. I mean, we're talking about a guy who put a TV screen down as the floor for the basketball tournament this year.
Oh, that's right.
And managed to piss off everybody because the women said, "Oh, you're not going to put it on our tournament, which was the week before, but you're going to put it on the men's tournament." And then the men's got it and said, "Well, it sucks anyway. We don't want it." So they ended up pulling it up. So he managed to piss off both the women's tournament and the men's tournament.
Soren, from also been Big 12 media, I saw a headline, Kansas State quarterback Avery Johnson and the curious case of his untapped potential. We heard that really when he stepped in as a starter late in his freshman season. He's been the starter ever since. Are we going to see this?
Listen, Colin Klein is a kind of a rocket ship as far as being a head coach. I mean, I think as soon as he was a smart kid, he's tough as nails. When he played for K-State, he's one of the favorite players in the history of the university. He quickly, rose up to being the offensive coordinator there at K-State. Then when Texas A&M brought him down, and then the offense played well. And by the way, I think the quarterback at A&M last year was mediocre at best with his passing skills. So to be able to coordinate around his limited ability to throw the football, I think he did a fantastic job. So I think he's been a great offensive coordinator. We'll see if he can be a quality head coach. But if anybody should understand the running quarterback and how to get the most out of those skills, it would be Colin Klein. Although, except the difference is Colin Klein ran like Josh Allen, except he weighed like 30 pounds less. I mean, he was just the toughest guy out there. He ran kind of Le'Veon Bell style, like real patient and wait and then go. But all inside running, and Avery Johnson is and Colin Klein's not as big as Josh Allen, and Avery Johnson isn't near as big as Colin Klein was when he played. So you've got kind of an undersized quarterback that likes to run, that's a speed guy that you don't want to expose to too many hits because it's tough when you don't have a $50 million payroll to have quality backup quarterbacks. So I think that's going to be one of the real challenges for K-State. Listen to their schedule. Couldn't shape up any better. No Utah, no BYU, no Texas Tech. So the top three schools, as far as the odds go for winning the league, they don't have any of them on their schedule. So they could run the table without playing any of the top three, find themselves in the championship game, and then just have one good day, end up representing that league. So if they need to keep Avery Johnson healthy. And I asked Colin Klein about that a few weeks ago when I was talking to him. And how do you do it? He said, "Listen, we're all football players." He said, "You got to manage it. You got to understand what you're doing." He said, "But at the end of the day, we got to make things happen." I was like, "Oh, okay. Let's see." The kid looks like he's about 195, 200 pounds, and if you're going to run him 10 times, that's going to be a problem.
I don't have a Final Four for you, but I do have a National Food Day. It's National French Fry Day. What's your favorite style of fried potato, Biggin?
Okay, just fried potato, so tater tots counts?
Absolutely.
Oh, I love the tater tot. I mean, tater tots are great. Waffle fries are great. Crinkle fries are wonderful. Seasoned fries are great. Garlic fries are tremendous. Curly Q fries are great. But if you go to the places that sell the Curly Q fries, just get the medium. Don't get the large because you really don't get any more fries for the large, and they charge you a lot more. Fries in general, a real passion.
You seem like that was a real expert's answer.
Break. That was
a real. You'd never tell by your body type.
Soren Petro, French fry sommelier.
Yeah. My body's a temple. You know that, Steve. But a friend of mine and I have discussed opening a restaurant that would specialize in fries. So we have discussed all the fry varieties. Sweet potato fries. We didn't even mention the fact that the sweet potato fries, chili cheese fries. Yeah, I've thought a lot about fries in my lifetime.
I want in on the ground floor, please.
You're in.
Just gave me an idea for San Gennaro.
There you go. All right, Petro, we appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, sorry I was late, guys.
There he is. Soren Petro. There's no rant. You don't have to air dirty laundry if someone's a little bit late or, they don't show up. But Dan Patrick has to with Kathy Engelbert. But very easy target. It's it's really easy to be a tough guy on the female commissioner of the WNBA.
It's very cantankerous.
Now back to Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas.
5:30 on Mondays means it's time to talk UNLV football, NFL, college football, really anything else he wants to discuss. Caleb Herring is up with us, the former Rebel quarterback with Willie and Cofield. Caleb, media days are finally here, which means we are inside of 50 days until the beginning of the UNLV season. What's the top storyline for you for Mountain West Conference Football Media Day on Wednesday and Thursday?
I think the top story is introducing new coaches. I think it has to be, right? Like the new programs that are going to be coming into the Mountain West, NIU, North Dakota State, UTEP. Those programs, we have a lot to learn about them. And with that, new coaching, new systems, new style of play, all of that comes with that. So I think for the Mountain West, that's going to be really the big storyline, is introducing some of the new players at the table. I think also with the exit of what has been really the dominant team in the conference for the last 5 years, Boise State, the crown is there for the taking. And I think it's interesting they're kind of teams that are vying for that number one spot, or at least to claim the number one spot at the end of the year, kind of seeing how they interact with each other. I think more teams are truly in contention for the title this year, like coming into things. It's not like the odds-on favorite is Boise and everybody knows it and kind of feels it coming into the year. And just looking at a shots and offensive big, I think everybody sees a vacancy. And UNLV may be one of the teams in the mix to say that's ours. We've been in the championship game the last 3 years, yada, yada, yada. But with what New Mexico and Jason Eck did and what Hawaii has done over the offseason, I'm excited to see what kind of posture they come into conference media day with as potentially being one of the top dogs at the end of the year.
Willie said a couple weeks ago he thinks North Dakota State can win the conference. The numbers are backed up by bettors right now as the favorite to win the Mountain West Conference, according to William Hill, is New Mexico at plus 260. UNLV's next to plus 270. North Dakota State is inched up all the way to plus 280. I think they go off in a month or so as the favorite to win the conference.
I wouldn't be surprised, especially if you're talking about from a betting perspective. Like, I think why not take that bet, right? Like, if you're the general betting public, how it performs on the football field, we'll see. For a full season of Division I FBS football, how they last and how they hold up. But I don't think that they're going to be a pushover by any means. I do think they have a shot to win it with the style of play and the level of play that they're accustomed to playing at as a program. I don't see it as a far-fetched thing happening, right? Like, if they were to win the conference, would I be disappointed? Obviously, yes. But surprised, I don't think would be the word. I think this conference is really open for the taking. Like I was saying earlier, there's a few teams, New Mexico, Hawaii, UNLV obviously being among them, that I think legitimately coming in, just based on preseason expectations, have a shot at it. And why not throw North Dakota State in there? If they come in with the right demeanor, right attitude, and the right system, we've talked about it before, the way that they play, the gap between FBS and FCS is narrowed by the fact that they're not playing bully ball. It's not like they ran through FCS by being bigger, stronger than everybody. They threw the ball over the top and made explosive plays. And that can be the three-pointer for, like, in basketball. Like, it could be the great equalizer. And if they're able to be efficient in the passing game, who knows what they can do. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised by it. Would I like it? Wouldn't like a newcomer coming in and winning the conference in year one when UNLV has not won it yet. So I wouldn't like it, but I wouldn't be shocked by it.
I wonder how much of a storyline, Caleb, the pressure of UNLV being, frankly, in a lesser conference with some of the better programs they used to go head-to-head with out. Could they succumb to that, or can they actually twist that around and make it into a positive?
I think it works more as a pressure situation, because I do think there is pressure with that. You look at the last 3 years, the body of work UNLV has had, been in the conference championship game a couple of times and just couldn't get it done over Boise State. And the expectation is, Boise's gone. That was the only one really that had your number for these last few seasons. And you can make that argument that does put pressure on the team. Like, hey, this is the year. If you don't get it done this year, you are a phony and you're a pretender. Especially with the way last year ended with New Mexico on the whole tie at the top thing and people thinking who should have got in versus who didn't. And UNLV got the ticket punched and didn't come up with the thing. So now there's definitely some pressure to finally come through with the teams that exited. So I don't see it. At least now I don't see how you could spin it as a positive. The only thing I could say is, like, with those expectations, or because you have expectations, that legitimizes you as a program. Like, the bad teams who just have a glimmer of hope or a couple of good seasons don't necessarily generate the expectation of being a top team. It's a flash in the pan. We kind of understand it as that. But the fact that people expect you to be the top dog in the conference, expect conference championships now year after year, it seems like, I think is a good sign in that people actually think you're a legitimate top dog. It's not like they think you're a flash in the pan. So maybe that's the only positive spin I could put on it in that regard. But I think it is, without a doubt, a sense of pressure, whether they admit it or not, whether it bothers them or not throughout the season, we'll see. But I think there absolutely is pressure on what UNLV has built up to this point to perform this year.
Lots of Rebel football talk, Mountain West Conference football talk coming up on Wednesday and Thursday. Cofield and Company will be live at the Palms for Mountain West Conference football media days. I saw a graphic, chances to make playoffs according to ESPN FPI, whatever that means. Top group of 5 school is Boise at 11%. UNLV is next at 8.6%. San Diego State at 7.4%. I don't know if New Mexico's on here. Hawaii at 3.7%. And there's some other group of 5 schools like South Florida is in the mix. 8.6% chance. They certainly have the schedule strength to justify if they go through this almost cleanly or with just one loss to make the CFP. But, man, that strength of schedule, which I think a lot of people around town are poo-pooing, I don't think they're showing a lot of respect for what is on this schedule this year.
I think it's interesting because there's usually, especially what UNLV fans are used to seeing, there's those big market teams like a Michigan or something like that on the schedule early in the year during the non-conference that makes the strength of schedule bigger. Like, yeah, if you do well against them, that helps your strength of schedule. Or just looking at it, I guess, as a fan, seems better. But there's a lot of even competition. It's not going to be an easy road because UNLV isn't an underdog in many of the games, if any. I haven't looked at the numbers on that. But starting out of the gate, you could start off the season with some trouble. I mean, Memphis has been a program that has kind of paralleled UNLV from the Group of 5 standpoint in its ascension to relevance and teetering on that CFP eligibility. Now, they might be a different team this year. Obviously, they've lost a lot of pieces, and we'll see what this Memphis team looks like this year. But that name alone in the Group of 5 ranks is a tough opponent to face. And then an early trip to Hawaii, and I've said this before, it would not, again, shock me if UNLV came out of the gate 0-2. I know we started off with an undefeated streak last year, but that's a tough start to a season. An unknown opponent in Memphis, really, who's new in terms of their style of play, and then a Hawaii team that has definitely been on the rise under Chang, with a quarterback returning and a lot of players returning and going back to the island. They were already a tough team to beat on the road going up to Hawaii. Going up there early in the year, second game of the season, your team still new, first time traveling together, and it's a big trip. That's a trap game if you want to call it that, but that's a tough way to start the year. So it is going to be a tough season. I think it's going to be a grind of a season. But if they come out, like you said, unblemished or with very few blemishes, I could see them having a chance at the end with a conference championship. I think they have to win the conference championship, obviously. But with the conference championship, getting that playoff spot for the Group of 5. To
put the beginning of the schedule further into perspective, Memphis and UNLV. UNLV is a 3.5-point favorite in that game in the opener on August 29th. And on the road against Hawaii, they're just a 1.5-point favorite. So right out of the gates, essentially toss-up games. Let's talk recruiting. And, this doesn't have much to do with the 2026 season, but it's about building and about it would suggest how long Dan Mullen appears to be committed and staying around Las Vegas. They have had a really good recruiting summer, and amongst group of 6 schools, they rank really highly, right?
Yeah, I think top 3 is where they had them, depending on which website you look at. Top 3 with the entirety of the group, number 1 in the conference with that with their recruiting class. And they've got their net cast pretty wide if you look at what the rest of the country comparatively is doing when it comes to high school recruiting. It's been almost forgotten about on the national, at least, discussion with media and all that kind of stuff, where, the 5-star, 3-star, 4-star rankings were such a big deal, it seems like 3 years ago. And now all we're talking about is the transfer portal and how you can build a roster overnight with transfers and grad transfers. But Dan Mullen, UNLV, has not forsaken the high schoolers, the young guys trying to come up and develop. And I think that's what they've been pitching. And Ed Graney had a piece with the Review Journal. We've talked to Dan Mullen, and his philosophy on those high school guys is you're trying to sell them that they can develop as players. And in this transactional age of college football, maybe you don't sell a guy on the amount of money you can make in NIL, because NIL is not always going to be the strongest thing for UNLV compared to some of these other major universities. But you sell them on the fact that you got a coaching staff that's willing to and will give you an opportunity to develop your skills to help you, in the future, whether it's making it to the NFL or making it to another school, a bigger school after UNLV. I think that's kind of what you sell high school kids, and it's the blunt truth. I mean, honestly, that it sounds basic, but I think that's what Dan Mullen's selling is like, I'm a guy who can get you where you want to go. Come under myself and my coaching staff, and we'll train you up the way and develop you up with our facilities behind you, with the things that we're doing, not just on the field, but off the field. We're developing successful men, and I think that that is a good selling point to those guys who maybe aren't landing the big NIL deals at the big universities.
ESPN had a poll from scouts and front office people onto the NFL here for the final minute. Jalen Hurts not a top 10 quarterback, maybe as low as 15 or 16. I don't know that I necessarily disagree with what scouts are saying here. I mean, they know the sport, and I wonder where the Eagles are right now with this long-term deal and their commitment to Jalen Hurts.
I think they're maybe thinking they overpaid. That if I was Eagles, now I've said for the last few years that Jalen Hurts getting thrown into the top 10 was unfair to him and not an accurate depiction of the talent at the quarterback position, in my opinion. I think, strictly speaking, from quarterback skill set and abilities and everything put together in a package, I haven't had Jalen Hurts in the top 10 even as a Super Bowl winning MVP, right? Like that's just my eye test looking at it in my judgment. There's a lot of guys at that position, and it's not bad to not be in the top 10. I think he falls somewhere in that 12 to 16 range, and that's really subjective with who else you throw in there with him. But no, I don't think he got snubbed. I think there's a large population on the internet that does. The quarterback top 10 is a tough, coveted spot for whatever reason. But I think they got it as close to right as you could get it this year, in my opinion, when I looked at the list.
Caleb, we are short on time. I apologize. Let's pour one out for Sam Neill, right?
Absolutely. A legend. Jurassic Park, recently Peaky Blinders, a legend. R.I.P.
I might have to play that Jurassic Park theme song at some point on the road when we're out.
Yep.
There you go. All right, Caleb, thank you. All right, there he is, Caleb Herring, former quarterback with the Rebels, one of the voices of Rebel football, and a co-host of the Dan Mullen Radio Show.
Cofield and Company presents Grab Bag on ESPN Las Vegas.
Stick your hand in there, Dave.
A couple of bits of unfinished business from the Conor McGregor fight this weekend. So McGregor goes down with an injury. The fight's over in 1 minute and 10 seconds. It looks like it's some sort of knee injury. He didn't specify what the surgery is for, but he's getting surgery. He says, I will be back. I believe that they will make another fight, a big fight with Conor McGregor. I hope it's on the MMA side and not on the boxing side. I heard some things before the fight about how clean living he was recently, and then I saw someone retweet a bunch of pictures of him like at events, at bars. He claimed that whiskey brand really screwed him over because he wasn't a big drinker before that. I saw this one. Conor McGregor vows his life changes are permanent, and he's adamant on fighting one more time in the UFC. He can fight one more time in the UFC after he recovers from this injury. I don't believe that his life changes are permanent. I don't. He's got some addiction issues, and he's addicted to fame, and he's addicted to spending money, and he's also addicted to violence. Because it's not just the female issues he's had. He's also popped a couple of different dudes in public. You know, he swiped phones out of people's hands. So I hope he makes some changes here and cleans things up. But by the way, he seemed to be having a great time living the life he was outside of the felonious activities.
Have you, in your time covering UFC with, I don't know how to put it. He made a big deal at the pre-fight, the official press, his media availability. But he spoke a lot about his faith. Had he ever done that before?
No.
So this time he did.
I don't think he has, not to my recollection. But even that, I don't necessarily believe that he's going to be dedicated to that, I guess, until we see it. I think someone can say they're changing. Listen, this is everyday life, right?
But has he ever said that I'm changing? Or has he just always never been apologetic? Because he said, I'm never apologetic.
He's been a little more humble. And I thought he was weird before the fight. Like, I thought his body language and just how loud he was and aggressive before the fight, like that wasn't him. So maybe that affected him negatively. I hope he cleans it up. If that's what he thinks is going to, get him a bunch more fights and he wants to fight and that's going to make him happy. But I don't necessarily believe it because I also don't. I think a lot of the tales they told about complete dedication and not jerking around anymore, I don't think that was completely true about moving into the gym and, never losing focus on the straight and narrow. We'll see. There's a lot of money at stake. And he's got a bunch of leg injuries that he's trying to overcome over the years. But he's not super old. You can fight into your 40s if you actually do turn things around and keep yourself in shape and have mega fights. And he's still, by the way the UFC operates now, he is still their biggest brand. So I'm sure they want him to keep fighting. What would you be interested in a Floyd? Sorry to interrupt you. Would you be interested in a Floyd Conor fight, number 2 in boxing under the Zuffa banner? Like, could they sell you on that? I didn't think it was a great
As a
fight
fan
the first
or a
time around.
reporter?
Either. You got 10 seconds.
I would go and cover it,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I would pay the ticket.
I think it wasn't a great fight the first time around. There's some buzz early on, and then he survived, but
It's a gimmick.